Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free right now. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello and welcome to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmie. Yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I am Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Happy New Year. The last episode came out on New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Quickly before we start, just want to say to all of our Australian listeners out there, because we have a lot of you guys, I don't even know, we'd like to send our heartiest holy shit to you guys, because I don't even know what else to say.
I don't know how the whole fucking place is on fire.
You can say thoughts and prayers and all that, but that doesn't really convey. No. It's holy fucking shit. Your continent is on fire.
Right.
This is horrible, and I don't know. We're sorry to you guys, and this is, it's unbelievable. We can't express enough how sympathetic and everything we are. It's crazy, and our hearts go out to you guys. There really isn't. It's just on fire.
We all get in the water and just start kicking water towards
like
the beach.
Pool, like a splash. If we all keep our arms straight and do the psh.
Right. Hopefully it'll... I don't know, man. I saw pictures of it.
Oh, it's
That's
insane.
too much fire.
It's insane.
That's way too much fire.
No, I looked at the statistics of the size of it, and it's like 10 California wildfires. It's like it's the scope of it is outside the realm of even comprehension.
It's unbelievable.
It's absolutely too much to even take in, and it's all over the continent. It's absolutely insane, and I don't know, man. Everybody hang in there, and our hearts are going out to you guys, man. I don't know if that doesn't do you any good, probably, but we're with you.
Wherever the money should go. I don't know where it goes.
Help Australia somehow. I don't know how you can.
I'll bet you if you send it to that Bindi and her family, I'll bet that goes to the right place
somewhere. I don't know. Send it to somebody or splash water. Or get your kicking going. I don't know, but thank you guys for doing that. Help these people out. Like we said, we have a lot of listeners there, and we're definitely concerned for all of them. But thank you.
I haven't heard shit from Busby. I got to check on him.
Yeah, make sure Busby's not, somewhere. Yeah, please. Let's do that.
He's probably being a hero.
I feel like Busby's saving koalas or something. So
strapping him to his back.
Yeah,
come here, baby Roo.
I was going to say he's in a Roo's pocket right now, pointing out this way. He's leading
the charge.
Come on.
Follow me, koalas.
We found the biggest one. Let's go.
Get the wallabies too.
So, thank you guys.
Unbelievable. I hope you guys just stay safe. Please.
Please. Jesus Christ. But otherwise, thank you guys, everybody, for this week. Everything you've done for us also. Your reviews on Apple Podcasts, that purple icon, it really helps us out a lot. Helps drive us up the charts. We don't know why. No. We have no idea why that's their algorithm, but for some reason, if you leave reviews, it makes us go up the charts. Then people notice us, and they see the show, and maybe they listen to it more, and we get more listeners, and that's how the whole thing works. So if you want, do that. Help us out. Get on there. Give us 5 stars. Doesn't matter what you say. Say you're following instructions,
help Australia.
Directions. I'm doing this somehow. I'm going to send money to Australia because they told us to. I don't know, something, but help them out there. Do that. Thank you so much for doing that. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com for everything crime and sports and small town murder. And you should be listening to Small Town Murder. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're missing out on something. And tour dates coming up. The ones that have tickets available right now: February 16th, February 6th, February 15th and 16th in Indianapolis and in Louisville. Right. Those dates have tickets. Denver and Salt Lake City are sold out, and then the whole full year after that. But that's what's coming up for February there. So do that. Also, if you want to be help out the show even more, you can do that very easily by going to patreon.com/crimeandsports or heading over to PayPal using our email address, crimeandsports@gmail.com. And thank you for everything you guys do for us there. Obviously, we're blown away by that, and we're going to try to have some crime and sports Patreon bonus stuff this year too, not just small town murder stuff. We're going to do a bunch of stuff here. We got some ideas of what to do for crime and sports bonus to make it a little bit different. But for today, wow,
Yeah.
We have quite the show.
I can't wait.
Well, it's one of those things. Every once in a while we have our crazy sports.
Yeah.
Okay, we just do. And there's certain ones are crazier than others. Our MMA guys are always nuts.
Somehow they always end up leading the charge.
It's boxers too. Boxers that's just a lot of pounding to the brain. So they're
but MMA fighters involve guns and then they hide them in plastic containers they shouldn't be in.
Boxers too. They kidnap their families. That's true. Punch their mom. They do a bunch of crazy shit.
Hid in a fucking house and tweeted about it.
That was amazing.
That's
that
crazy.
was amazing. I think a boxer did that at one time too.
Jesus.
But there's one sport that encompasses all of these things where you get it all. You get the crazy from one sport, the crazy from the other, and it's all mixed up into one big stew of CTE and just an insane lifestyle, and that is professional wrestling. Everybody,
does that.
And that's where we are today, baby. The king of these sports, and possibly my favorite episodes to do, because I was a big wrestling fan back in the day there, and it's very interesting.
People know that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's just interesting, and the parallels to stand-up comedy are so clear that it gives me fucking agita sometimes when I'm reading about this stuff. I'm getting heartburn going, oh God, I know what you...
The lack of pay and then the physical punishment. Granted, one is getting punched in the face physically, and the other one is punched in the face metaphorically.
At the end of the night, you feel the same way, and you're both on drugs. That's the point. That's the point.
And neither of you can afford them.
Neither of you can afford them. That's the issue. So let's get into this right now. This we're going to do. It's Brian Christopher. You might remember from WWE there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about who he was. Brian Christopher Lawler, Jerry Lawler's kid. Yeah, it's Brian Christopher Lawler, Jerry Lawler's kid. Went as Brian Christopher in WWF at the time in the late 90s, and then he was Grandmaster Sexay. I don't know if you remember that. Oh yeah, with it was a joke.
Unhinged Jerry Lawler gave birth to. Well, he didn't give birth. He had a hand in creating another one that was just fucking like him.
No, Brian seems like a good but troubled guy. Jerry, in my opinion, and people might have a different opinion, as a human being, seems like a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
To me, anyway. Everything I've heard about him, obviously I don't know the man, but everything I've heard about him and the charges that were leveled against him, that he'll have his own episode someday. He just seems like a complete weirdo scumbag who possibly likes girls that are a little too young for him. Let's just put it that way. He was charged for that sort of thing. But Brian is a different kind of kid. He's different. I mean, he's a guy, as we'll talk about, who's trying to live up to his dad's reputation. We haven't talked about too many guys whose fathers were like a legend in what they did. You know what I mean? We'll get juniors and shit like that, but not to the point where they're so overshadowed by their father. Because we'll get into Brian here. Brian's
apart from like Jake the Snake.
And Jake the Snake was a bigger star than his dad.
Yeah.
So that, Jake was a way bigger star than Grizzly Smith ever was. And, some of the, I'm trying to think, like Kerry Von Erich was a bigger star than Fritz ever was, I think. Those guys in the 80s, I mean, Fritz was a big star for years, but when the Von Erichs were popular in the 80s, that was, wow, were they popular. So, but Jerry the King is the king of Memphis. I mean, he was the number one star in Memphis. Everybody else used to go from town to town and, they'd work different territories. Sure. Jerry stayed in Memphis. He was the king of fucking Memphis and lived there and bought into the territory and became an owner of that. So he was always there. Brian is born January 10th, 1972. Okay. So, it's almost his birthday actually here, in Memphis, Tennessee. Obviously anything Jerry Lawler did is going to be very Memphis-based here. Like I said, he has a half-brother, whole brother named Kevin. Okay. He's later on going to be a referee that goes under, I think Kevin Christian is his referee name. Okay. But he'll be a wrestling referee, and a sister named Heather also here. Brian and Kevin, Brian is the older one, they were born 10 months apart.
Oh, so, Jesus.
That's really close.
Jerry was horny.
You're not supposed to fuck for 6-8 weeks after you have a baby. Yeah. Like, he got in there. It was like, you're fine. Don't worry about it. And he got in there a-pumping. Right. I feel like you're going to be all right.
Right. Those stitches were barely healed.
Oh, come on now. Jesus. I'll just put it in a little bit. It's all right. So, I don't know what the fuck here. It's like, no, not again.
Yeah.
So, they were born, he was born January, obviously. Kevin's in November. Mm-hmm. Kevin said, quote, every year after it was my birthday, we'd be the same age for 2 months. So they were brothers that were the same age for 2 months, which is interesting as shit. Now, Jerry says that Brian kind of, tried to he would try to needle him a little bit when he was younger, in little ways. Like, a lot of times, like sports, if your family's a sports family, you're either going to like the same team as your dad or you're going to like that team's rival.
Right.
It's not, there's no outside thing. So Jerry the King's a big Browns fan. Okay. He grew up kind of in Ohio, became a big Browns fan. So Brian becomes a big Steelers fan.
There you go.
It's a rivalry. Jerry feels to irk him here. And
this house divided.
That's what it is. And Jerry said, quote, and there's a lot of information here, really good article in the Daily Beast that had a lot of good background info on them. So a lot of this kind of background comes from there. Jerry says, quote, Brian told me he was watching a football game one day and he told himself he'd follow whichever team won. That's how he claimed he became a Steelers fan, but I don't believe it. I think he did it to go against me just to be rebellious. It's kind of, that sort of thing. And Jerry, oh man, it's so weird. These father-son relationships in wrestling are strange. Yeah. They're very strange. Like they have this air of, I don't know what it is. Like they'll help their son out, but at the same time, when the father's a promoter, it's almost like they treat their kid like they're trying to scam them by becoming a wrestler. It's really a weird thing.
So it's not like a Mufasa Simba thing.
No, that's not at all. Yeah. That's what I mean. He doesn't. It's always like it's kind of the opposite, actually. Like Vince McMahon, the current WWE guy, jumped through a lot of hoops to buy that shit from his dad. His dad didn't give it to him or will it to him.
Really?
He had to have a huge high interest balloon payment fucking loan that in the stipulations were any payments missed, everything goes back to the original partners. He loses everything he's put in, has no part of the company. One payment missed.
Wow.
Fucking done. And that included a huge balloon payment at the end of it where he had to hit to be able to keep the company. Otherwise, it went back to his dad's partnership thing.
That seems like a bad business opportunity.
That's why he went crazy and tried to steal everybody and got Hulk Hogan and all these people. Because if he didn't, guess what? The payment, it was good. That's fuck you, pay me. He had to have his money. That was it. So he had to I'll steal people and I got to make that money, man. That's what it was. So it's weird. And Jerry kind of had that thing with Brian a little bit here. And their parents, Brian and his Jerry and his wife, Brian's mother, her name's Kay. They split up in 1978. Mm-hmm. So the brother stayed with the mother, and that's kind of how that worked. Kind of normal arrangement. But Kevin, Brian's brother, said, quote, even though Saturday morning wrestling was the biggest thing, our mom's house looked like everyone else's house. We went to public school and my father didn't live with us, so it's not like our friends would knock on the door and he'd be there. Yeah. That's the thing. They're from the early mid-70s on, Jerry Lawler's the biggest star in Memphis. Mm-hmm. I'm talking, wrestling was... I can't express to how big Memphis wrestling was in Memphis. The rating they would get would be, literally more than half the televisions in the viewing area would be watching Memphis wrestling on Saturday morning. More than half. Like that's
amazing.
Nothing would beat them in terms of ratings wise in that local area. So they stayed strong even through the 90s. Memphis existed and all the other territories went out of business. So there's some crazy wrestling connection in Memphis. They really, really have, and it's strong. It's really strong there, and Jerry was the number one guy. So he's saying, they didn't have like a mansion. Like, oh, Jerry the King Lawler's family lives in a mansion, and he wasn't there like with his crown on, hanging out in the house. And so
the red robe with the white,
the red
and the black shit all
with
over.
The singlet, the stupid fucking singlet he had. He'd take off when he thought he was tough. Yeah, the end of the thing. Ever watch a Jerry Lawler match?
No.
They're pretty fucking funny.
The only ones I really watched were the ones where he wrestled, the comedian.
Andy Kaufman. Yeah.
Those are great.
That era, man, he was good. Jerry was good. He's not like a real great athlete or anything like that, but fuck, man, he'd have that crowd going.
Yeah.
He'd get that crowd into showman. It, and he was a great showman. They loved him. He knew what to do. Every little motion, he could do one little movement and get the crowd to go nuts, which was really impressive. But yeah, they said when they would go to Jerry's house, to visit on visits, it was a different story. Then it was like all wrestling because Jerry had bought into the Memphis territory. So he worked in the office and all that. So they said the boys would like look through all his notepads and, fucking see like what was going to happen. Yeah. They'd be like, oh shit, this guy's, oh cool, that guy's going to turn into a bad guy. Right. Neat, shit like that. He's going to turn heel. Wow, look at that. Like that, which for a little kid, they watch wrestling Saturday mornings like everybody else. Right. I get to see what's going to happen.
It's fascinating.
That's fucking awesome. But yeah, Lawler is so lucky that he didn't have to go all around the country. And these kids are lucky too, because generally if the family was together, everybody would move.
Right.
It would be
living in a trailer or a fucking car.
Or a car. They'd pack up their car every 6 months, every year, and they'd go to another place in Memphis, and now we're going to the Northwest. We're going to Portland, and now we're going to Minnesota. And now we're going to go to Texas. I mean, imagine that's a life a lot of these people's kids lived. Until the guys started making enough money to where they could kind of home base and then just fly out of wherever they are. But, back in those days, you lived around the territory you were in. Because that's where all the local spots were. But here it was good. So Brian always got to, Jerry was around, on the weekends and everything else. So they were really huge though. Wrestling is huge. He said, Kevin said, quote, as a kid it was so cool to be in the car with him, with Jerry, and pull into a McDonald's and the whole place would run over to the drive-through window going apeshit. Wow. Their dad's the most famous guy in fucking Memphis. So now they have different things in this article. They talk about how Jerry's a really good artist. He draws.
Jerry Lawler is?
Jerry Lawler's an amazing artist.
Really?
Oh, God, yeah. He does a lot of shit. He's even done, like, cover art on WWE video releases in the 90s and shit like that. And, he'd make posters.
Wow.
Look up Jerry Lawler art. It's really good. I mean, if you want to see, like, wrestlers and shit. But, I mean, his drawings are remarkable. I mean, I can't draw like that. So he's really, really fucking good. But, so Kevin was good there. That's how Jerry got into wrestling, was through his sketches. He made sketches of the wrestlers, and they wanted him to make more, and then eventually he got in and started wrestling. Most of these guys are in it forever, get in it when they're kids. They get in it, they take pictures, or they take ring coats, or sell soda at the arena, or they get in it when they're kids. They sell programs.
That's how you get ingrained.
That's how you get into
Indoctrinated.
Yeah, it's like the mafia.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. When you watch Goodfellas, they get Henry Hill and Tommy when they're kids, and they bring them in, and then, you can trust them, and you treat them your way.
Right.
That's what they did with these kids, and they wouldn't tell them shit about wrestling, and then eventually they kind of smartened them up a little bit more, and eventually they'd let them in the locker room, and they'd see what was going on.
They're a wise guy.
And then, exactly. Before you know it, they got some 20-year-old kid directing their TV show and doing shit like that, and that's how they would work.
They're burning a wrestling buddy in their hand in a locker room in the middle of the night.
That's exactly how it works. So, but Brian was super into wrestling. He was just all about wrestling, and he's apparently he's more into sports, and Jerry's very much into sports.
Really?
Jerry one time, I think, blew out his knee playing touch football in the park, and wasted a huge angle that they had that was like this big hot angle that they had sellouts for, and he couldn't wrestle because he fucked his knee up.
Can you imagine?
They were like, dude, you got to stop doing that shit.
Vince he'd ruin somebody for that shit.
Yeah, luckily Jerry was in charge, so he could.
The boss can do what he wants.
He can maneuver it. They just made it. I think they ended up saying that one of the bad guys beat him up or some shit. They jumped him and fucked his knee up, and that's what they used to do with anybody. If they had a legit injury, they'd be like, oh, it was that guy that did it.
Clearly.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, look, him. They jumped him.
Right.
That's what happened. So Kevin said about Brian and Jerry, quote, they'd play the Intellivision baseball and football games together for hours and hours. That's the old school video game. I think that was the favorite part of Brian's life because he'd have all the time with my father uninterrupted. Mm-hmm. So Brian always wants his father to notice him. He tries to get his father's approval all the time. He's very much into that. He's very much wants his father's approval, whereas Kevin's a little more kind of aloof about the whole thing. He doesn't really care. I guess people would ask him, they would ask the kids, is wrestling's fake, right? And blah, 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 because they knew that their dad was Jerry Lawler. Yeah. And they were supposed to say, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Oh, God. And then he'd fucking wrap him up.
And then then beat the kid up and say, see, no, it's not fake.
How fake did that feel?
That's how the guys did it in bars back in the day, was people come up, what you do is fake. Oh, really? And then they'd knock you the fuck out, and then it'd be in the paper that some wrestler knocked everyone out, and that was good for business.
Shit, yeah.
He's tough. I'm gonna go watch him fight.
Fake at all. I see real black eyes on my friend.
Now they're like, oh, what a dick. Oh, what a jerk. He's huge, and I don't care what that guy's saying. He didn't deserve to be beaten like that. Whereas back then they go, shut your mouth if you don't want to get your ass kicked. It's a different story. Shouldn't have been yelling at that big motherfucker. You want him to punch you.
Freedom of speech, not from that big motherfucker.
Well, he ain't gonna give you freedom of nothing.
Speech from the government, but he'll whip your ass.
He's gonna kick your fucking ass. He's gonna knock your teeth down your throat. He's got the freedom to do that. Brian said, quote, I had to learn from a really early age how to fight and how to fight really good. People would say wrestling was fake, and those are fighting words to me. So yeah, he'd have to, quote, protect the business back then. We're talking early 80s.
Your mama's a bitch back then.
Yeah, that's your dad's a phoney.
Right.
That's what they're saying. Your dad's a phony.
Yeah.
That's, and for Brian, that's, you can't say anything about his dad.
Dare you.
That's it here. They said his hero of wrestling growing up was Nature Boy, not Ric Flair, not even Buddy Rogers, but Buddy Landell.
I don't know him.
Okay, Buddy Landell is known as one of the most self-destructive. He'll have an episode someday, too. He's hilarious. He's a fucking disaster. Okay. He's a guy who's had the most opportunities. Like, people have brought him into territories going, we're going to really bring this guy to the top. And then he, gets drunk and, drives his car into the city hall front doors. And he's, banned from the town from now on. And they have to fire him. That's the type of dumb shit he does. He's just an idiot. One of those guys.
That was so much fun. That was like saying, who's your favorite Sugar Ray? Robinson? No. Well, then is it Leonard? No. Who is it? Mark McGrath.
Caruso. That one. That's not a person. It's Sugar Ray Caruso. Made him up. But yeah. That's it. So, yeah, Buddy Landell, to old school wrestling fans, he was a good wrestler, too. He's a good worker and shit like that. But he never got to the level of, a Ric Flair or Jerry Lawler or one of these legendary guys here, other than among the guys in wrestling knew he's a good worker. So, he said, he would obviously, he said he learned to wrestle, he said, quote, I learned to wrestle sitting in the front row and watching wrestling because I never actually trained. Yeah. But they're around it so much, these guys. Anybody can
see it enough, you can do it.
That's the thing. If you just watch it.
If you're athletic.
If you're athletic and inclined and,
right. If you can dunk, you can probably do whatever guys do that dunk.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But you might not be able to dribble up to that dunk unless you practice a little.
That may take some time.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
He said, anybody can learn to give someone a body slam, suplex, or put someone in a figure 4 leg lock, but I learned how to entertain the crowd. If you can make those people cheer and stand on their feet in between doing moves, now you've set yourself apart. And that's the whole thing of Jerry Lawler. He has an advantage of watching his dad and going, okay, my dad, he probably has a 2-inch vertical jump. Right. He's not flying around the ring. He's not doing anything like that. But when he makes a fist like he's going to punch the guy, the crowd goes fucking crazy and goes, oh shit, he's going to punch him. So he knows how to work the crowd, and he learned that's the important thing. Because Brian also, he's only about 5'10" when he grows up.
Jerry's not much bigger.
No, Jerry is not a big guy.
Yeah. He's not even super chiseled either.
No, God, no. Jerry was doughy. Yeah, even in the 70s and 80s, Jerry was a doughy fuck. Yeah. I mean, which is weird because he's not a drinker.
No,
that's another thing that I find weird about Jerry. Jerry is a total teetotaler.
Really?
Said he's never had a drink. Only drinks Coke. That's it.
Oh.
That anyone who's never had a drink or doesn't curse is probably a pedophile in my book. That's just, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Someone goes, I've never had a drink. I go, how many kids you fuck last week? Because you're a kid fucker. Or I don't curse. No, because you expend all your energy fucking kids. So you don't have time. You can't muster that fuck. That's a hard word. It's a fu and a cuh. It's hard. You're drained from kid fucking. It's difficult for you. Sorry, but it's true.
Good Lord, who did you know that didn't drink, didn't swear, and just fucked
everyone who doesn't drink or swear? Everyone who doesn't drink and swear. Priests.
Yeah.
They drink, but they don't swear because they're fucking kids. Right. God damn it. They have to, back in the day when I was a kid, that happened.
Those super Mormon fucks,
That's what I mean.
The super extreme LDSs.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Look at the people you know. If you know anyone who, and I'm not talking about your grandmother. No. If someone was born in 1936 and they're like, I don't think it's proper to curse. She's not a pedophile. Anyone under the age of 60 right now, never had a drink, doesn't curse. They've touched a kid.
Be questionable of them.
Don't leave your kids with them, at least. I'll tell you that much.
It's your fault for having them come down there and babysit.
Sorry, Uncle Howie. I know you've never had a drink before, and that's great. I know you won't get drunk and beat my kids, but you will fuck them, I think. So, no. So,
holy shit. That's a wild accusation.
I was swinging wild on that one. Every once in a while, I'll throw some roundhouses. I'm not above that
That's
shit.
A hard opinion.
I'm not going to fucking lie. I'll drop some bombs. I'm not going to lie.
That's hysterical, though. It's just like the most innocent person, and they're the worst person.
They always are. That's the thing.
It's like, what, you put parsley on your fucking eggs? What, do you molest dogs?
No, I'm telling you.
You finger 9 puppies in your spare time?
You know who really, really hated cursing and you weren't allowed to curse around him? Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
That was the biggest thing. Yeah, not allowed. No, please don't use that kind of language. He'd tell famous people around him. Yeah, because it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Because he's weird and he wants to keep himself pure so kids will think it's okay.
Right.
That's how I feel like it is. Like if I temper myself never to curse, then I won't curse around kids so they won't consider me an adult.
Right.
And I'm like them and I can get in there. Creeps. Everybody curse and drink once in a while. Put it that way.
Swear to Christ, if they don't swear, they don't drink, and they got orange slices, watch out.
If you're going to watch my kid, you're going to stand next to me. I'm going to pour you a shot of whiskey, and I'm going to go, nice fucking day, right? And you better go, fuck yeah, it is, and slam that shit down, or else you're not watching my fucking kid. Period.
I'll skip whatever I got planned tonight. You fuck out of my house.
You bet your filthy shit covered ball sack I do. It's beautiful out there. Pow. Then I'm like, that's my man right here. He's all right. You excited to watch my kids? Not fucking really. I want to watch the game, but I'll do it. Perfect. You're my guy. Exactly what I'm looking for. I got a lot of games planned. I got orange slices and snacks that I got Sunday makings. No.
I brought Connect 4.
I brought Connect 4. Stay away from my family.
Don't connect shit with my kid, motherfucker.
I will pull a gun on you for that shit.
I got Battleship and Connect 4 in the trunk.
You show up with Battleship and Sunday makings. You're getting off my property at gunpoint, period. That's all there is to it. You show up in a fucking Hell's Angels jacket with a bottle of vodka under your arm. I'm going to go, all right.
And then go, how long you going to be, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Hurry it up.
I got a date tonight. I got to plow this fucking broad. I'm like, my man. All right. But you're not going to, I don't care what you do on the outside, but you're not going to touch my kids. You're not interested in them at all. And that makes me happy.
Unreal.
So, yeah. So anyway, the brothers here at their mother's house, they had what they called the Neighborhood Wrestling Association.
Hell yeah.
Which was NWA, which was the wrestling back then. So they were making their own little NWA here.
This is long before MC Ren.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is National Wrestling Alliance is what they're going off of, not you know.
Right.
Yeah, so, you know.
Those guys with attitude.
You know, those fellas.
Those brothers.
Yeah. So Kevin says, quote, this was before anyone knew the term backyard wrestling. There wasn't backyard wrestling yet. When no adults were around, we'd get everyone together. Hey, let's do a show. The walls, the couches, the chairs were ropes. The arms of the couches were the turnbuckles, which kind of every kid did that. If you had someone to jump off of a couch corner and to pretend it was a turnbuckle, you were fucking doing it.
If that couch, like...
I have figure fought my cousin Jesse on more than one occasion.
Yeah, but...
more than one occasion.
I'm thinking about how do you fucking get off that? Like if you bounce off the back of it,
yeah,
and when you come back, that couch is gonna flip over.
Oh
man.
yeah. No, you gotta push it up against the walls is the only way to do it.
Okay,
you gotta do that because if you do
gotta
that,
get your arm over it.
If you're small enough, you don't even have to use the arm of the couch. You can get up on the back of the couch and use that and leave. Then you can do like snook off the cage if you were back in that era.
Ladders and shit.
Yeah, like
boy.
Or fucking McFoley in the Cell or some shit like that. You can go way up there.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So they're doing, pretending to wrestle like all kids that are huge wrestling fans here. So Jesus Christ, they said one match, Brian came off the couch with an elbow and destroyed the Christmas tree. I guess rolled off of and just fell over and he destroyed the whole Christmas tree. Which imagine if you're that mother and you have these two boys and you have a girl too, but you have these two boys and you come home and your fucking Christmas tree is destroyed.
You know how much that thing fucking
and they're standing there in the living room like, I don't know.
It was an elbow, Mom.
It was a fly. If I landed it, he would have been. If I hit him with it, it was over. It was the finisher. I'm telling you.
I almost won.
He moved. What do you want from me? I don't know.
$80? That'd be nice.
You win some, you lose some. I don't know what to tell you. So Jerry Lawler later said, quote, Kevin might have been more the booker of the whole thing here. So like Kevin would set up the matches and shit like that here. It's, Jesus Christ. Brian says, quote, or is this Brian? Yeah, the only time I ever struck one of those guys was when Kevin got a job at a store and was fired for stealing. This is Jerry. I'm talking about he never hit the kids. Yeah. When Kevin got a job at the store and was fired for stealing. I remember I brought him to my house and put him against the wall and I slapped him. Then I found out he was taking lights and other materials they needed for their wrestling ring.
Oh, shit.
That's what they were doing. He was stealing little bit of material here and there to build a wrestling ring.
That's awesome.
To fuck around in the backyard, which that's like, if kids building a half pipe
it's just being resourceful.
It's being kids. And your dad is pretty rich, so you maybe should have just asked him for a couple of bucks.
Maybe that's that. Yeah.
Maybe not steal it as the first option.
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
We piece together all kinds of wild shit.
Oh, yeah. You figure some shit out. You go, I don't know, something. Don't steal from your job.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's not smart.
I stole a milk crate to make a basketball hoop, but that was out of the back of a grocery store, I think.
Yeah, but those are just to storage anyway. They don't sell milk crates.
Well, Shamrock Farms considers that
true.
Part of their.
They take
fucking
it back and
prosecute.
Forth. Will they?
Oh my God! If you have one of their crates, I might have a few. They will prosecute.
Oh, I'm going to collect them.
Yeah,
my whole closet.
Fucking snatch them.
Filling them now.
It's hilarious.
I'm going to send them pictures of them.
Hold them for ransom.
Send pictures.
Send pictures with like the end of a shotgun near them.
Yeah, I got some of your friends here, and just send them a picture. I think that'd be great, with like a burner phone and everything. Do it just to fuck with them.
Destroy them, like melt them down, except for the logo.
That's it, guys. That's one down. For every day you don't give me what I want, another 2 are going to go down.
You better find Liam Neeson, motherfucker.
Holding it for ransom. So they said on Christmas or birthdays that Jerry would give them like masks and capes and wrestling attire, shit like that would, because Jerry had his own seamstress that did his robes, and everybody wrestling, like whatever territories had their own guys. Like there's somebody who made like all the like some guy in Florida that made all the WWE tights, and like some guy in here that made all of these guys. There's a guy in New York City that made everybody's masks. There was like all these weird specialists. One guy who made all the fucking belts.
Wow.
It's a weird thing. Like they're very specialty things, and guys do it for a long time. And all these seamstresses were like these ladies who these guys would buy. Literally, like those Ric Flair robes are $5,000 to $10,000.
Really?
In the 80s.
Wow.
$5,000 to $10,000.
What do you think those fucking belts cost?
Oh, the belts, I think they said those go like $20,000, I think, because it's all plated shit and whatever. But they're fucking expensive.
They're
like
heavy.
The old NWA, big gold belt type of thing. That thing was enormous. Yeah. Shit like that.
When they throw it over their shoulder, you hear it slap.
Oh, yeah.
They're heavy as fuck.
It's a big, heavy belt. I've held the Intercontinental belt.
Really?
It's fucking heavy, or a replica of it. It's pretty goddamn heavy. Yeah, the fucking... where the hell had that? The Honky Tonk Man had it at one of the Comic-Con things I brought my daughter to. I was like, holy shit, look at this. All right,
hold that.
We're here for you, but I'm going to go stare at the Honky Tonk Man for a minute. See if he does anything crazy. So he didn't. It wasn't any fun. But Kevin said, quote, that was way cooler than underoos. We even had spandex tights. So they were, as a little kid who was a wrestling fan, I would have loved to have some fucking wrestling robes. That would have been awesome. Some
Absolutely.
big fucking cape. That would have been cool as shit. I don't know what I would have done with it, but it would have been great. So they said that they befriended a bunch of kids, and a lot of kids also who like they knew from the wrestling matches, because the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis was weekly. So I think it was Monday nights. It was every week they were there. So people would have season tickets. People would be the same people in the same seats a lot of times for years. Right. So you'd get to know the people around you. And they said they recruited a bunch of kids, and they had for their backyard wrestling. And Jerry said about them, quote, Kevin was as passionate for the business as Brian, but Kevin didn't look the part of a wrestler. Brian was more physically endowed. Well, that didn't sound Jesus Christ. See what I mean?
Lord.
See what I'm saying? He became a bodybuilder. Unfortunately, that was the first thing that messed him up, getting involved in steroids, obviously. He says, I mean, look at what you do. You give yourself a shot. I could never give myself a shot at anything, but once you give yourself a shot of one thing, I think it's easier to give yourself a shot of something else.
Yeah.
He's talking about, once you start injecting things, that's a big threshold to cross. Right. So I'm going to stick a needle in myself. Right. Not have a doctor do it and wince.
That's a wobbly bridge.
Yeah, once you cross that bridge,
it's over.
You can just stick needles in you. That's a whole other area. Yeah.
If you can cross that thing, it's like Indiana Jones. It's crumbling right behind you.
Absolutely.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds There are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
There's no going back.
I mean, you watch, and you'll see in a documentary, in a movie, or people I've known, people who are like hardcore junkies.
Yeah.
That looks like it probably feels great.
After a while,
to be high on heroin.
Right.
Looks like it's shooting it in.
Right.
They look like they're in heaven. They really do.
Looks like they've been waiting a while for this.
For that little while that they're actually fucked. The whole everything else around it is
sucks.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
But that few minutes looks great. But to get that, you have to jam yourself with a needle. I'm not willing to go that far. Even if the other stuff wasn't bad around it. Right. Even if it was like you did it and then you were high for a little while and you're like, all right, there, back to work. And you just like did your thing and you were fine. Still, I couldn't do it.
No way.
There'd be no good. Now, his mom said about him, this is what Kay says about Brian. This is in an article in the early 90s when Brian first starts getting into wrestling. Mom says, quote, Brian only wrestles to get Jerry's attention. Hey, Dad, I exist.
Aww.
That's what he says about him. And this is where it gets interesting because he starts wrestling in USWA, which is what Memphis turned into in the early 90s.
Sure.
And he starts wrestling there in the early 90s, around 93, 92 here. I can't remember. We have the exact schedule here. 92, he starts wrestling. And it's a weird catch-22 because on one hand, like, let's say you were an 18-year-old kid or 20-year-old kid in 1993. I know you were 12 or 13, but 13. Let's say you were 20 and you wanted to be a wrestler in 1993.
Yeah.
How would you do that?
I don't know.
You look up wrestling in the yellow pages to see if there's like a wrestling school class.
There was no internet.
That's what I mean. You look it up. If there's no wrestling school, something under W for wrestling in the yellow pages, then what?
Nothing.
You just sit there and you go, shit, I guess it don't exist.
I guess I'll wait until it happens.
That's what I mean. You have literally nothing you can do about it. You just sit there and how would you get into it? Would you drive to the matches and try to get people's attention and ask them? I mean, people have done that and that's how a lot of people got into the business, but that's a really pushy thing to do that a lot of people aren't, you wouldn't know what to do is what I'm getting at. So there's a certain advantage to your father not only being world famous wrestler who's the biggest guy in the territory, not only that, but co-owner of the territory. Right. The advantage is if you want to be a wrestler, you know where to go.
Yeah, he knows where to look for him.
You don't have to go, who do I talk to? How do I train? How do I get into it? Yeah. Are they going to just like beat me up and throw me out?
He's at the other end of the dinner table, dummy.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So that's an advantage. On the other hand, it's also a disadvantage because once you get into it, now you have two options. You're either Jerry Lawler's son, which means you're fucked because you're Jerry Lawler's son.
It looks like it is nepotism.
You're never going to be Jerry Lawler.
Right. Even if it's not nepotism, it's always nepotism.
Yeah, that's exactly. Time. Also, at the same time, Jerry Lawler doesn't want that because then he looks old if he's got a son wrestling. Even though Jerry's been around for 20 years and anybody who can do math knows he's in his 40s at this point, still, he doesn't want to look old. No. So he's saying, I don't want to have some adult kid. Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's one of those, and that's happened a lot in wrestling where some of the guys are fine with it, like Larry the Axe Hennig had Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. He came up and they were tag team partners. This is my son, and Larry was the old guy now, and it was fine. Then you had guys like Johnny Valentine. Remember Greg the Hammer Valentine?
Yes, but I can't picture his face.
Blonde guy. Yeah. His dad was Johnny Valentine, and when Greg started wrestling, his dad had him be his brother. This is my brother.
Wow.
He's just old enough to wrestle now.
My God.
That's how crazy he was.
James, is Kane, are you about to tell me Kane's Undertaker's brother?
No, I'm definitely not. Yes. They're all the same age, but yes.
It's his son.
It's his son, damn it. Paul Bearer's son. Jesus Christ, that's great. So that's kind of a disadvantage, is either you have that and you're in his shadow, like you could be like David Sammartino, that poor kid, who was Bruno Sammartino was the Jerry Lawler of the Northeast, the biggest star by far in the Northeast. And when his kid came along, and he's David Sammartino, he kind of looked like him a little bit, and everyone went, he's just not as good as his dad. Okay, dismissed him, and then he was shit, So that there's a certain thing, or you could be this anonymous person who just has to make it all on his own,
right?
Which
like Rey
is
Mysterio.
But he had he used that name,
right,
which was his mentor's name. He used,
But my point is, like, if he could have done it that way, just like with a mask. Yeah, nobody knows who the fuck he is.
Well, that's actually what he did. Actually,
really?
Yeah, he ended up
genius. I'm a fucking genius.
You're booking the territory here. You are fucking booking this shit. He goes under. It's going to end up going under a mask in the USWA here. A lot of times he would tag team with The Rock at this point.
Really?
Yeah, The Rock. This is when The Rock was starting out.
Yeah.
And USWA, Memphis was, you'll hear he wrestled every huge WWE superstar of the mid-90s. He wrestled in USWA. That was their farm system.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was before WWE had a developmental league. They had USWA. And they would, like, if somebody was hurt, it was like a minor league. They would send them down to do a couple matches to get back on their feet, or they would lend Memphis a couple guys to get their show up, and then they would, use their guys. They would use them as a developmental territory.
That's awesome.
So that's where The Rock worked for a while before he, went to the WWE.
Before he went to making movies.
Before he went to making money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Shit piles of it.
The
man has clothes now.
So loaded. Jesus Christ. Good for him.
Yes.
Fuck it. He's done very well for himself.
Seems to be one of the nicest men ever.
He seems to be a good dude. No one has any shitty stories about him or anything like that. Seems like an all right guy.
Yeah.
Just the amount of steroids he's had to pump into his body over the years, I'm not saying that disparagingly. I'm saying that's working hard.
Yeah.
No shit. I'm not fucking around. People can say what they want about it. You just jack steroids in yourself. And then you have to work out like crazy or else you're a fat fuck. That's how it works.
Eat a ton of food to energize
for
that
him
power
to maintain
plant.
what he looks
Holy
like
fuck.
for 20 fucking years,
his
25
veins,
years
James,
is insane.
They almost are out of his skin. They pop so hard. There's like a gap of skin in between the vein and his body. It's so much vein.
It's crazy.
He works out so hard.
I mean, genetically, he's dealt a good hand. He comes from a wrestling family. I don't know if you've ever seen his dad, Rocky Johnson, but his dad's a fucking specimen. His dad is carved, chiseled.
Yeah.
If you look up Rocky Johnson, he had this nice little fro on him, some sideburns, and a chiseled, jacked motherfucker that just looked like a big, tough motherfucker.
And he's hairless, James. The lucky fuck.
Well, yeah,
I'm so German.
Shaving, I feel like
I can grow a great beard, but I grow it on my fucking shoulders too.
Yeah,
and I feel
connects.
It
all connects.
Yeah, I don't have like
Jimmy's the Wolfman unless you carve out body parts.
It's because
there's an arm. Let me carve that out there. You make a head. I'm gonna make a head out of this. Cool.
My family is historically just classically not handsome, and I just feel like nobody has fucked the caveman out of us yet, and that's why I'm still so goddamn hairy. And I'm so jealous of him getting able to.
Also, genetic diversity. His dad's black, his mom's Samoan.
You mix some people together.
They mixed it up. Fucking beautiful.
The best of all these worlds.
Up fucking coming out with a handsome, athletically gifted guy.
6'8"
guy. That's what you get.
God
6'5", athletically gifted college football player and a fucking pro wrestler.
The world is his oysters.
Movie star.
Yeah.
Jesus
forget
Christ.
oysters.
So,
they're too cheap.
that's what I'm saying.
The world is his golden ball.
Well, at this point, it wasn't. At this point, they would be tag teaming. Rock and Brian would be tag teaming at flea markets and state fairs, sharing the same hotel room, sometimes with two other guys.
Wow.
2 guys on the floor, 2 guys in beds. They drove 1,500 to 2,000 miles a week.
What?
Just doing shows. That's all you had to do. All you're doing is eating shit, fast food. This is the lifestyle.
That's as much as a long haul trucker.
It's crazy. Yeah. The Rock here says, quote, "We would always dream and talk shit about once we made it to the big leagues of the WWE," which, I bet you would.
Sure.
That was the dream here. But he gets, by the way, the fans at this point, that's the thing. The wrestling, there's 2 different fans. There's the wrestling fans that just watch wrestling and whatever they say on TV, they're like, okay, that's what the show is, and they watch it. And then there was the fans who, even back in the 90s, were on early message boards on the internet, learning all the dirt, and they were subscribing to the dirt sheets and Dave Meltzer shit and all of that stuff, and subscribing to get all the backstage shit. So those people knew that he was Jerry Lawler's kid. That was everybody, in the know knew it. But
people give a shit.
Yeah, if you were a 10-year-old kid watching at home on Saturday morning, you had no idea that I was Jerry Lawler's kid. Jerry Lawler never told anybody, and it wasn't said. He was Brian Christopher, period, and that was that.
It was like Jonah Hill and his sister, Beanstalk or Jelly Bean or
I can't
Greenpeace or whatever her fucking name is.
Greenpeace, Twizzler head. I don't know her
fucking name.
Fucking something like
that. I saw her name and I was like, I'm never remembering that. Yeah. That is too much fun and too goofy.
Somebody was way too stoned when they came up with that shit. So they would. But it's strange though, because Jerry tries to make it out like it was all him trying to be, let Brian have his own path. But I think there's a little bit of it that's his vanity.
Yeah.
If you just look at Jerry, there's just a little bit of that in there.
Yeah.
When you got a guy who's 70 years old and he's dyeing his hair jet black. There's a fucking touch of vanity to that you're like, come on, bro.
Too much ego.
Even just salt and pepper it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Enjoy it.
Something.
It looks good.
Yeah, you don't need to be.
Look at Tom Hanks. He's so handsome.
Yeah, it's fine.
Looks
it's fine.
Great.
Yeah, nobody minds that
No.
shit. But I'm talking, it's not even a good, Vince McMahon's not totally gray and everything. And he's in his 70s, but his shit looks like it cost $4,000 to get his hair done because it looks amazing. Whereas,
but he's always got a little bit of black on his ears.
Yeah, there's always a little touch of it dangling down there. So Jerry said, quote, "I wanted Brian to be Brian. I didn't want him to be a copycat of his dad." So I don't know if that was more for him or for Jerry or for who that was, but whatever it was. I think a lot of it was the age thing too. So he said, though, Lawler expands on this, and he's talking about a different a thing about there's this was I want to say in the Missouri area, or actually this was also in Tennessee. The Goulas family, that was another promoter and had a son that wrestled, and George Goulas was the wrestler and his dad was Nick Goulas. And he says, quote, "There was a story that George was in the ring with someone and he said, 'Dad says go down' to the guy, my dad's the promoter, and he said that you're supposed to lose." Quote, "It was one of the reasons Nick lost his business and died broke. When I looked at that nepotism, I didn't want that for Brian. That's why he didn't use the Lawler name." Okay. So it was both good and bad for him here. But obviously everybody else knew. All the wrestlers knew. And
everybody's going to know.
They all resented Brian, until he proved himself, because Brian's a fucking good wrestler. That's the thing. He's pretty good at his job. He's not a schmuck. How sad is that no matter what you do too, because there's a very famous guy, and then Royce, the wrestler, Royce Isaacs. Yeah. He knows a guy whose dad is a very famous actor, and they don't fucking tell anybody because he doesn't even want that to be. They're like, oh, he clearly. We know people in the same position. It's
very famous people.
It's a real tentative thing. You don't know what to do.
What do you do?
Yeah, because you don't want to be looked at in that mold. I have to be like them, or they're going to compare me to them. But at the same time, anything helps. Yeah, it does. This is a tough fucking business.
I might just take the name.
You know what I'm saying?
Just run with it.
I know in comedy or in acting, it's a tough fucking business.
Sure.
You know, I have somebody I know that had back in the day, a real solid in somewhere to get an audition for a very, very hot show at the time, and didn't do it because he didn't want to use he said, I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to use my connections. Yeah. And he's fucking regretted it for 20 fucking years. Because how stupid are you?
I gotta put my fucking pride.
Anything anything helps.
Damn it, fuck pride.
Even famous people's kids don't make it sometimes. That's how hard it is. Even when you have every advantage and it's handed to you, you still drop it sometimes.
Right.
That's how fucking hard making anything of yourself in show business is.
Seriously famous people whose brothers and sisters do comedy and they are not very successful at it.
Not to that level of being millionaires. They might be successful in terms of if you get booked in comedy, like if you're working, and that's the thing, you could be making $27,000 a year, but if you're working, you're success. That's a successful comedian.
Yeah, right.
If you're making $27,000 and you've somehow managed to figure out how to live on that money and everything like that, that's your net or whatever. You don't have a day job. That's success in comedy right there. And then it's just degrees of it. It goes from there to being, Howard Stern or something where you give $1 billion or Jerry Seinfeld or somebody of that nature.
The dream.
Yeah, that's what it is though. So, but no, Brian was very good. He wasn't like, he's garbage in the ring. He's only out there because he's Jerry's kid, like some of these horseshit promoters' kids. But he wasn't like that at all. Here's Dr. Tom Pritchard, who's not a real doctor. That's his wrestling name. No, he's Bruce Pritchard's brother. Got it. He was a wrestler for years and a trainer also, Dr. Tom. Yeah, he's got, it's weird. There's a lot. It's family, man. It's all in these families. They keep it tight like the mafia. You don't just recruit from the outside.
No.
They do now, but back in the day they didn't.
You want to keep it close too because you got to keep the story secret. You've got all kinds of reasons to keep it in the family.
And they'd get it. It takes a long time to get. That's people don't get. It's like comedy. You can do comedy. They always say people do comedy. Everybody says it doesn't really click until 10 years or 12 years or people have different times, but it's never like in my third year it clicked and I just was a fucking. That's not what anybody says. No. Like it's later on, or they might say that at the time, but then later on they're like, oh God, I was terrible. Nothing clicked. So it takes a long time to figure out how to work an audience, whether it's in comedy or in anytime you're on a stage with everyone staring at you, you need to figure out how to work it, where there's no script or there's no, set, other characters that are going to come on and talk about shit and distract from you or anything.
The only thing that clicks in your third year in comedy is the 357 because you still can't afford bullets.
Yeah, you're like, well, next year. I'll get booked at a couple weekends, then I'll blow my brains out. That's what I'll do. I'm not successful enough to kill myself yet. That's the problem.
Nobody will even mourn me at this point.
No one will even care.
There will not be tweet one about me.
They'll be like, where's he at the open mic? I guess he quit. I don't know. But Dr. Tom Pritchard here said about Brian, quote, oh my God, he was a good worker, but no one was helping him. He was a cocky kid, but that was a self-defense mechanism because people talked behind his back. He didn't trust them. Also, he had the thing of that's all of the wrestlers, like second generation wrestlers, a lot of them are kind of paranoid and they have this. Wrestling is a very talky paranoia. Everybody's trying to fuck me. Everybody's trying to take my spot. Like comedy, same type of thing. And most people don't know that till they're in it, and then it happens to them, and then over time they harden. If your dad did it, and your dad's telling you from the beginning, everybody's a shyster, everyone's trying to stab you in the back, so that's the attitude you go in with. I think maybe you see things that aren't there, or just things are magnified for you.
It's probably both of those.
It is
absolutely both those. You see things that aren't happening, and the things that are happening are magnified.
That's exactly right. So 92, he forms a masked tag team with a guy Tony Williams, and they're called the Twilight Zone. Brian goes as Nebula. That's his name, which doesn't sound
that a girl's
sounds
name
like a sex toy.
Yeah,
it's the Nebula.
I think that's the chick's name from the Avengers.
That's it.
I think so.
Well, there you go.
The blue chick. I'm pretty sure that's her name.
They stole that shit. No, I don't know. I'm sure it's a comic book or something. But so he in July of 92. This is, he's only 20 and he's just started. He defeats Dr. Tom to win the Southern Heavyweight title in USWA. So that's his first title, and he loses it back pretty quick, but they get his feet wet with it and give him a title just to see how it goes. It's funny, all the different guys he fights, all these old names and fucking Danny Davis and guys like that who you forgot. Eric Embry, I didn't realize was still around. Reno Riggins. These are like kind of like WWE jobbers like Reno Riggins and, Dutch Mantel. He's still out there now. Bill Dundee, who was the longtime Memphis rival of Jerry Lawler here. Jeff Jarrett, who is
name.
Jeff Jarrett, who's another second generation. Jerry Jarrett is Jerry Lawler's partner in Memphis.
Okay.
They're together. So these are the two.
Dad?
Yeah, these are the two sons of the two owners wrestling
wild.
each other. Yeah, it's Jerry and Brian. Jerry got more success, or Jeff Jarrett got more success. He's a little better. He's just a little better. Sort of. I don't know. It's hard to explain with Jeff. Jeff was kind of a douche too.
Really?
But yeah, he's a good wrestler too, though. Jeff he was one of the guys that was instrumental in starting TNA and all that sort of shit. So he'll start up some different things if you don't want him here. He couldn't go back to WWE because he held Vince McMahon up for, I think, $100,000.
What?
Yeah, he's one of the guys that did that. There's a few guys that have done that, and he held him up. They wanted him to. Apparently, his contract ended like 2 days after, or 2 days before a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And so he had the title, and he was supposed to lose the Intercontinental title at the pay-per-view. And he said, well, I don't have a contract, so I ain't fucking losing shit. My contract's up.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah.
He said, unless you want to pay me an extra, you can pay me $150,000 right now, and that'll be my fee for that shit.
Yeah.
And they ended up having to do it because otherwise he could have just went somewhere else.
Yeah. And then they made him lose, and then they fired him.
They made him lose to, I believe they made him lose to China, I think.
That's what I was
they made him lose to a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to embarrass him too.
by losing
I think so. I might be wrong about that.
Losing to McMahon's daughter when she's 9.
when she's 9, yeah. Losing to McMahon's maid who comes out going, ay, dos míos, I don't know.
Beats him with the eureka.
With fucking yellow plastic gloves on.
Unbelievable.
Beats him with a Swiffer in the submission. So, he's fighting those guys, all sorts of guys. Scotty Flamingo turns into Raven. He's tag team partners with him against the Moondog, so I don't know how the fuck they were still alive, either of those guys. I'm sure it was a different incarnation of it. But yeah, anyway, he fucking Superfly Snuka.
He wrestled him?
He wrestled Superfly Snuka, man, in 93. Superfly was still wrestling like Independence in 93. He was
murder, right?
Oh, well, 8 years post.
Do we say it?
What?
He wasn't convicted, right?
Civil judgment.
Oh.
There was a civil judgment.
Really?
In 86, I believe, was the civil judgment.
Why don't I remember that?
It was in the episode there. Civil judgment, and he just never paid it. Nope.
Nah.
Just ignored it.
I don't speak
know,
the
brother.
language.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. That's how he got out of it a lot. Pretended he didn't speak the language. That was incredible. Wow. Fucking incredible here. So yeah, he's teaming with Jeff Jarrett a little bit. Jesus Christ. Fighting Coco Beware, who I forgot was still around at that moment in time in USWA. All sorts of shit. Somehow Billy Jack Haynes makes an appearance in here. Ends up fighting Billy Jack Haynes. Did we ever talk about Billy Jack Haynes? He's a guy who needs an episode.
Really?
The most entertaining interview I've ever seen in my life.
Then maybe we have.
Is
Tell
Billy
me more.
Jack Haynes. Well, he did 2 of them. The first one is just sort of crazy. He tells you about his crazy life, and he's obviously a nut. And over the course of it, he gets crazier and crazy. He shows up with like a suit and tie on.
Yeah.
By the middle of it, he's got like just a tank top on, and he's offering people Vicodin on the film crew. He's like, guys want a Vicodin? And they're like, nah, we're
You
good.
have told me that.
And so but then the second interview, he's off his meds, and he's fucking nuts. He's nuts, and the whole thing, he's got a fucking suitcase full of files, and his whole thing is how Vince McMahon actually killed Chris Benoit and his wife and his kid, and here's how I know. And he's got pictures and it's fucking crazy.
Want a Vicodin? Follow me on this rabbit hole.
If you're interested, Billy Jack Haynes conspiracy theory, just look that up.
He starts in a business suit and strips down gradually.
That's the first one. Yeah. By the middle of it, they take a break and they come back, and he's just in a black tank top offering people Vicodin. And I'm like, what is going on?
It's like Mike Ness
fell apart.
and Social D playing a concert.
Yeah.
He comes out in like a pinstripe suit.
Falls
By the
apart.
end of the night, he's wearing pinstripe pants, a tank top, and his suspenders are dangling from his
trying
hips.
to inject people with heroin. Is that what he's doing? Come here, you, and just get over
sweating
here,
everywhere.
you little fucker. Fucking crazy. But yeah, he's one of the nuts ones there. Also wrestles Sid Vicious here, which is, Sid. He was Sid Justice, Sid Vicious. He's a
I know
big,
a Sid Vicious.
Not that Sid
one.
Vicious, the wrestler. This guy's like a giant 6'8" monster.
Really?
He looks like if you said, let me just draw a wrestler, that's who you draw. It's amazing. But he's a pain in the ass. But he's a giant guy, so him wrestling Brian Christopher's kind of hilarious. He's about almost a foot taller.
Wow.
And probably has, 70 pounds on him.
It's the original. Wait, no, it's not, because this is a 90-something?
This is 95.
Okay,
this is
94. This is after Andre and Hulk.
Oh, well, yeah, well after here. Yeah. Wow, Billy Jack Haynes won the USWA title from Brian Christopher. Holy shit, that's insane that they were like letting Billy Jack Haynes have a belt.
Beating him.
He's just going to lose it.
Right.
Like, he's nuts.
Right.
He's going to I left it in a fucking Waffle House on the counter. Like, okay. So 1996, he actually has a match against his dad. He actually has a match against Jerry. He wrestles Jerry, which is pretty fucking wild. Yeah, that had to be a interesting thing for him to be able to do that. And then also 1996, he gets married.
What?
So, he's on the ascension. This isn't like things are going terrible. This isn't like breaking a crime and sports rule. He's like, hey, things are going well.
Yeah.
Might as well get married, I guess. Might as well make it a little more complicated. I don't know.
But I can't imagine being in a life like this and wanting to have a family.
It's hard, man. What I mean? It's hard. It's a famous thing about there's very few people in the wrestling business that have been together for 30 years and didn't get a divorce.
It's not a thing.
They talk about it, like Bruce Pritchard always on his show, the Something to Wrestle show, which, by the way, they did a promo for us a while back.
Thank you.
They're great people. We were supposed to do a cross promo with them, but somehow they're very busy and they never gave us the copy. So Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and Conrad, man, they are great. Conrad Thompson, great guys. Great show. If you're into wrestling and kind of wrestling's inside stories and their funny shit, check them out, because it's really, really funny stuff. And
if you love our wrestling stories, they have deep cuts.
Tons of them. And Bruce, no one's been around longer than Bruce. Bruce has been in the business since he was a kid in Houston. And whether you like Bruce or not, if you think he's a WWE shill or not, because obviously now he's the producer of SmackDown.
Oh, so he's got some dough there.
It's amazing, though. The podcast, this is how amazing podcasting is. 5 years ago, he was managing an office.
Wow.
Okay. Literally managing an office. Conrad is now Ric Flair's son-in-law. Okay. Married one of Ric Flair's daughters. Yeah. So he did a podcast with Ric Flair. Conrad did, and Ric Flair's a little flighty and just didn't do the podcast. He said by episode 10, he was like calling from a bar, like literally calling in to do the podcast, like while he's having drinks and talking. You hear
like a real damn serious.
You hear like a football game playing in the background and glasses. I know, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we were back. It was
fuck the Eagles.
Yeah. It was Charlotte, I think it was. Hey, can I get a double? One more. Yeah. Hey, how you doing, sweetheart? All right. It was what were we? Yeah, I was wrestling. It was it was Arn Anderson that night.
Right.
So then Conrad ended up doing a podcast with Bruce Pritchard, and he has other ones too. And he's kind of built a little the wrestling he has a wrestling podcast, a little empire here with Conrad, and Bruce is kind of the kind of forming foundational brick of that. Now he has one with Jim Ross too, and all these different people. But they're good people. So anyway, there you go. There's a plug for them.
Royce and Colt wrestle in the same thing. He's part of NWA also.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were both in the same thing.
Circuit. Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Kind of a main circuit. Yeah, it's wild.
They love each other. They're good friends, and
again, it's like comics. They all kind of run into each other once in a while.
A ton of those guys in NWA listen to this shit, though.
That's cool.
Fucking fascinating.
What's up, guys?
Thank you for listening.
Fuck yeah. Keep hurting yourselves and
risking life and limb for the big payday. I hope you get it.
I hope all of you get it.
I hope every one of you get it.
Keep banging your head agaagainst the wall just like comedians, and hopefully you'll get there before you have brain damage, and we'll get there before we die in hotel rooms. Because it's funny, wrestlers and comedians they die the same way.
It's all
in hotel rooms. It's just the way it works. What if I said it's the only way I don't want to die, Jimmy?
Hotel.
In a fucking hotel room. I says, please don't let me die in a hotel room in fucking Columbus, because my whole life will have been worth nothing if that's what happens. I don't want that.
They're mostly hotel rooms in the Midwest.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah, that's why I picked Columbus. It's going to be
Columbus.
It's going to be some of Dayton or some horse shit. Bad Ohio town.
Always are.
So
depressing.
That's awesome. 1997, he's called up to the WWF at the time, WWE now, obviously. He's called up to this, and this is the big time. And his dad is an announcer there. His dad is the Monday Night Raw color man. So I mean, it's kind of a fucking cool deal for him here. And they said too, I remember this at the time, they would Lawler would really talk Brian Christopher up. Like, oh, look, he's a good-looking guy, isn't he? What a good-looking guy.
Really?
Real athletic, good-looking guy.
It's bizarre how much he looks like me. He's so handsome.
And then Jim Ross would say, yeah, they seem to, you guys, there's a weird connection. And then Jerry would always say, he'd say, quote, there's only one set of the King's DNA, buddy. That's not, he would act like, don't act like it's my kid or anything. I just think, I see quite the young star in this guy type of thing.
I see what he's doing there, but if his boy hears that could sting
it's
subliminally.
It's just a tip of the that was 97. WWF was experimenting with kind of doing some, they call it kind of shoot angles as well, which are kind of a nod to the people who know what's really going on, the people who read the internet and all that type of shit. And that was one of those things. You can't just, they had to the rest of the country and normal people, you had to pretend like they weren't father and son, but to the people that knew it, you couldn't act like you were pretending like it didn't exist, because they're like, hey, don't bullshit me. So you had to give them a little wink and a nod. Hey, you guys are a connection, huh? That way they'd be at home going, oh, that's his son, blah blah blah, and they think they were smarter than everybody else. This is like a way to just sort of,
Jesus,
fucking to lubricate their circle jerk of the fans who thought they knew shit.
Right, but it's not doing anything for the stereotype that wrestling fans are fucking dorks. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. Well, those guys, there's just a group of guys back then who were like, in the infancy of the internet, who were just really, into it, and there was a real divide of who knew shit and who didn't know shit. Now everybody knows everything. Yeah. It's, it'll be on, if you, whatever news site under the sports thing, if there's like a WWE storyline that's going to change and somebody's leaving, it'll be a news story on there. So this guy's going to lose the title because he's fucking going to leave next month to go try to be an actor or something. You know what I mean? So it's different now. Everyone knows shit. It's hard to explain.
It's just fascinating. That'd be like Tiki Barber being like, that Rondé Barber is a fucking badass, isn't he? And they're like, what are you talking about, man? He looks just like you. There's only one set of DNA.
Hey, listen.
You're right, Tiki.
There's one barber, and
it's
me. Yeah, exactly. God damn it.
That's actually the most truthful thing you've ever said. There is perfect. Only one set of DNA.
One set. You guys split it right down the middle. Enjoy. So they apparently Jerry said he was pissed off that Paul Heyman, who was ECW's, Paul Heyman he was ECW's owner and runner. He when they were kind of doing an interpromotional kind of angle here, he announced that Brian was Jerry Lawler's son on TV.
Suck it.
Because he completely catered to the people who knew everything. That was to the smart mark, as they call it. That was his whole audience. Yeah. So he had to act like, look how cool and edgy I am. I'm going to blow up their whole thing. And,
what a dick.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler said he was a little pissed off at that.
I'm sure he was.
I was a little pissed off. You don't break kayfabe, which was like by 97, you do.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was. They hung out with Brian hangs out with The Rock a lot, even in WWE now, because both came up this time. Mm-hmm. Rock came up, I think, late 96. So, and he wasn't The Rock for a while.
Yeah, it took a while.
He was wearing like a puka shell necklace and he came out doing like an island gimmick. Yeah. Like came out like, doing the Jimmy Snuka love ya bra thing. Right. Not really, but that was basic, big smile on his face. Hey guys, like.
What was the Brahma Bull was the thing that he was doing, right? That was the bull horns?
Later, but at the time.
But at that time he was using him as
not really. At the time, but he was like, they made him come out like he's an island dude. He's a happy kind of Rocky Maivia, the happy kind of guy. And he'd come out, big smile on his face. Like
that tribal tattoo.
Yeah, that before that even.
Yeah. He had that tribal bowl.
Yeah. This is before that, I think.
Really?
I don't even think he had that yet.
Really?
Back in 96,
he was just clean?
Maybe. I can't remember. He might have had it then. I don't remember when he first came out, but the fans fucking hated him because he was this corny dude they tried to push for him, and they didn't like him until he told the fans to fuck off, and then they were like, hey, he's pretty cool now. Then he figured out that I have to be a dick. That's my character. Okay, I get it.
Don't be cheesy.
No, just be cheesy the other way. Be an extra big dick. So, Kevin, his brother, is a referee, like we said, in USWA and things like that. He also does a little bit of managing and things, but he never becomes a wrestler. And his brother Kevin says, quote, I feel like we were in high school and everyone else graduated, but I got held back, which I could totally see that shit. That makes a lot of sense. But 1997, they're kind of trying to do the cruiserweight division back then, which is, lighter guys. that was a big thing because WCW had all the Rey Mysterio and all the luchadors and shit. So they were trying to do a lightweight division too, the cruiserweight type of thing.
That was so much fun.
I can't remember what they call it. I think they call it the lightweight division in WWE. I don't remember. It was cruiserweight in WCW. But anyway, they were trying to do that. So they were trying to find smaller guys. Yeah. So a lot of the guys down south in Memphis, that's kind of built around smaller guys that can work well, and that's what they did. So they bring him in. He beats some guys that he had beaten before down there. They kind of work with him. He beats Scott Putski, which I can't believe he was still around. That's Ivan Putski's kid, who's Polish power from back in the 70s and 80s in WWF, and his kid came out in like the 80s and was shitty, and then went away, and apparently came back again for a minute here. They wanted to give him a chance, I guess. But he starts. They push him pretty well here too. He gets some wins. He's winning on television all the time and shit like that. He's losing to people too, but he's a dick. He's a heel, so it doesn't matter. He can lose, and nobody really gives a shit. But yeah, they give him a lot of work anyway. He even does. He's in a tag team battle royal at WrestleMania 14 in 1998. This big giant tag team battle royal with everybody from the Road Warriors to fucking you name it. Everybody on earth is in here that they have. Even like the Nation of Domination you got in there, Farouk and those guys, and it's all of the different. Even Rock and Roll Express is in there. The old school Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson from the 80s are in there, which they were still working down south back then. Which, by the way, those guys still have the same haircuts they had in 1986, and it's scary.
That's not good.
Picture a 58-year-old man with a 80s mullet that's like teased in the front. It's not pretty, dude. It's not pretty. No. It's bad stuff. So,
there's a reason Eddie shaved that shit.
Yeah, that's...
Eddie Van Halen had that for so long.
It ain't good,
man. And then it starts to droop a little.
It's so sad looking. You're like, bro, cut that shit off, man. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, it's hard to... A haircut says so much about somebody, you know what I mean?
Well, you have to just make a decision whether you're going to change or not.
Yeah, but if you're not in the public eye for so long, and then you come back, or people will see you, and you've got different hair, they don't even know who the fuck you are.
That's the thing. I agree with that. That's what's so weird. I think it's hard
if LT didn't have so many mugshots of his hair shrinking and not being a flat top anymore, and then that carve going away, I don't think anybody would recognize. Well, maybe you would.
Yeah, you recognize his face. No, but like if you have a hardcore blonde mullet, like I guess people can see that from the back of the arena, and you know who you are.
Right.
But like people make a decision whether I'm either going to change this every few years and this kind of goes out of style, or I am going to do this until I drop dead. I'm going to have the same exact fucking haircut until I die. No matter how really time stamped to an era that haircut is, like that mullet from 1985. But
I don't know, ever since Tombstone, Sam Elliott hasn't changed fuck about his head.
No, that's true. That's true. But once you're like in your late 40s, I feel like that's fine. You get a head and you go with it. But when you're younger and you're out doing shit, Rick Rude cut his mullet off.
He did.
He did. You know, he was like, all right, I'm done with this shit.
This has got to go.
You know, eventually, I think Shawn Michaels eventually cut his mullet off.
Yeah.
Or at least made all of his hair long, so it wasn't a mullet.
Relaxed it a bit.
Yeah, so it wasn't just this fucking shaved on the sides.
Right.
God, he really hung on for a long time, that Shawn Michaels. He was.
There's so many that did. It's fucking embarrassing.
Many. It's fucking insane. So he ends up teaming up in '99. By the way, he tears an ACL and he's out for a few months getting a surgery because the way he works, you know, he does a lot of pretty athletic shit. So you can't be half-assed in there. You can't have one of your wheels be bad and doing moonsaults and shit like that. Just doesn't work. Not that he was a real aerial guy, but he would do a bunch of aerial shit. 97, 98, you had the guys were doing crazy shit in the ring, and that was including they'd throw themselves all over the place and then beat the shit out of each other with chairs and things like that. It was not even thinking about brain damage whatsoever back then.
Plus, at that point, they were the I don't know, rumor, I guess, or the real stigma of it being so fake.
Yeah.
They had to shake that really hard by doing just unbelievable acrobatic shit, and they did it.
Yeah, people would go, look, I know it's fake, but when that guy hits the other guy with a chair, he might know he's going to hit him with the chair, but he's fucking hitting him with the chair. That's what it was. So it was like, I know they know who's going to win, but they still have to beat the shit out of each other in the process. That's kind of how it worked. Yeah, but then it's one of those things where the whole point of wrestling from, back in the day and from whatever, all the old timers and even guys now who are smart, they seem to say the whole point of it is to have something really look like it hurts, but not hurt.
Yeah.
That's good.
Art.
That's when you're good.
Right.
Anybody can just hit another guy with a chair.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. Just hit me hard. Okay, clang. I can hit you with a fucking chair and you fall down and people go, oh, shit. That doesn't mean we're talented. That just means you're insane and I'm an asshole. That's what that would mean. You know what I mean?
The motions of the stomp and the timing of all of it. It's
having something not hurt and having people go, holy shit, did he really hurt him?
Right.
Like,
how is he standing?
That's the art of the whole thing.
I get that it's fake and that's why he's still standing, but how the fuck is he still standing?
It's like when you tell a joke and you go, last week this happened, and people don't go, he's full of shit. That's the point. You have to sell it like it really happened last week and like that really happened to you. You can't just be like, this is a joke I made up. It didn't really happen to me, but I'm going to put myself in the first person so it makes more sense. Okay, so I was at the store the other day. You can't say that. You have to pretend like it's fucking real.
That's not funny anymore.
Yeah, you have to pretend like it's real. It's the same thing here. So,
or unless you sell the joke and at the end be like, that never happened.
That didn't happen. That's fine. But you can only do that once.
Right.
Once in a set.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can't keep doing that.
Once per hour. You can do that. Never again. You can't keep coming back. That one's not real either. They'd be like, well, why the fuck are you telling us this?
Why are you on stage?
Yeah. What's going on?
Who are you?
Liar! So Brian here, when he comes back from it seems like when he comes back from the ACL, that's when they team him up with Scotty Too Hottie.
Oh yeah,
and he changes his name. Brian does to Grandmaster Sexay.
You can't do that.
SEXAY.
Yeah.
He's doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's like, he has this vest on. He comes to the ring with all sorts of goofy shit, like goggles with like a fucking headband under him. And like, he looks like a fucking lunatic when he comes to the ring. He looks ridiculous. He dresses like Seth Green and Can't Hardly Wait.
When he's locked in the bathroom.
You know what I mean? Like with like a yellow thing and some goggles. What the fuck are you wearing?
Snowboard goggles for no reason.
That's what he had on.
It's May.
With like a do-rag on under them. Like with them on top of a do-rag. Like, what is happening? Fuck is going on? He dressed like a lunatic, but he was a heel and it was very tongue in cheek. Like everyone in the crowd knew it was a joke. Like Scotty Too Hottie would do the worm, like as the big thing. It was a total joke. It wasn't like, back to Rick Rude. It wasn't like Rick Rude who was ravishing Rick Rude and you're like, that's a handsome motherfucker. He's got a 12-pack and he's handsome as shit. He's saying, I'm ravishing. Right. Look at me, bitches. Hate me because I'm so fucking good looking.
Whereas he's going, tell me I'm not.
Yeah, when you can't. You go, fuck him. Even though he was a bad guy, women were screaming for him and people liked him. Even we were watching the one time Sarah goes, he's pretty handsome for a wrestler. Yeah. With Rick Rude even, it's like, she was just like, oh, he doesn't look like like his head's like a potato or something like the rest of the guys, so it's
like their faces are, most of them are fucked up.
Yeah, because we're always making fun of how the guys look, some of them, especially the extra puffy, roidy guys from the 80s.
The extra unattractive.
He was like, oh, he looks semi-normal in the face. Like, it was one of those things. Yeah. He doesn't look like a freak. So, it wasn't like that. This was a joke. This was like, look how sexy I am.
He put the word Grandmaster in it.
It's silly.
That alone makes everything afterwards a joke.
The whole thing is ridiculous and silly here. Sexay with an A there. So, obviously, it's a joke. And he just, he was trying to be as grating as possible. And also, then they brought Rikishi into their little group. Remember Rikishi?
No.
I'm sure you do. No, Ricky. No, God, no. He's a giant Samoan man whose ass is the size of your body.
Oh my God!
And he would sit on people in the corner and do the stink face. He'd put his ass in and just sit on you with his big giant stinky ass in your face.
Got like a big fat thong on. Oh, one of those things.
No, it was tights, but still. And then sometimes he'd have the thong.
Yeah, the thing. You know what I mean?
They would do that where you could see skin on skin, ass cheek.
Oh, that's no good.
I mean, the hole would be covered, but the rest of it.
It's like a big sumo underwear garment.
And the dude had been wrestling for 15 minutes. And I can't express to you the size of Rikishi's ass. It's really, it's like, whoa, that is disturbing.
Those asses are not even like...
Genetically, I don't know how it's
round
possible.
And they're not like an ass. It's just a lot of... It's just ass.
It's like two people get in the fetal position.
Yeah.
Hit under his pants. That's what it looks like.
It's not round. It's just a lot of ass. Yeah, so much ass.
Jesus Christ. So, Brian at one point said about this tag team, quote, "We were supposed to be doing a spoof on hip hop and making fun of it, but the fans started enjoying it. They loved the fact that it was two white boys out there dancing because they looked ridiculous. It was funny. That's what it was a goofy act. Then when they throw Rikishi into the mix, that only heightened everything because now we've got a 400-pound Samoan wearing a thong with his huge ass showing, but he can dance as well. Because Rikishi can dance.
Because fat guys have all the best moves.
He's a real athletic fat guy. He wasn't a fat guy like normal. He's a fat guy that like was an athlete. He's a Samoan wrestler. Those guys they look huge and like unshapely, and they can run circles around everybody. It's it's incredible. The long line of these guys that The Rock is in. And that's where his family is. These guys.
They can dance so well,
and they dance their asses off. Everybody, big fat guys are good at it.
I credit it to them like balancing themselves all day in the first place, you know what I mean? And they know like
fat guys dance well.
Their feet have the control of where their weight goes, and they're fucking good at it.
I knew a guy who was 550 pounds. Literally, he was 6'5", 550.
Fuck yeah.
Fucking dance his ass off. Really, I mean, dead serious. I saw him one time though break a shoe long ways.
I believe it.
The sole of the shoe, the whole bottom, not like side to side. Fucking long
down
ways.
The middle.
How do you break a shoe?
Toe to heel.
Toe to heel.
Split in half.
Split it. A dress shoe. I've never seen this before. Ever. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Never.
That's how well they know their body. They
550. You can do it.
They can dance.
He's like, I broke my fucking shoe. Can you believe that? He's this fat.
I can believe that.
This big fat Italian guy with a Chicago accent. He was great. I broke my fucking. Can you look at this fucking thing? Jesus Christ. He goes, I'm a fat fuck. What do you want? It's like, oh, what a piece of shit. He goes, it's not the fucking shoe's fault. I'm a fat fuck. Look at me. Like, all right.
Of course it broke. I put it on my foot.
Yeah. One time he ripped his shirt and he goes, I got to take it to the tent maker now. Jesus fucking Christ. He was all mad. Like, he would give himself these self-deprecating jokes.
Send it back into Coleman.
He was an AC guy.
Oh,
he was an HVAC guy. So he goes, you want to see these people when I start climbing up on their fucking roof? Oh, my God. He starts crying. He's like, it's fucking hilarious. He goes, they come out. Are you sure? No, you don't need to be. I'm all right, ma'am. It's fucking great.
I think the heat pumps downstairs.
Yeah, so I don't think you need to be up there. Now I do. Start climbing up the ladder. They get scared. So
this house is old. We haven't had that roof inspected.
No, please
don't go up there.
Oh God. So in 2000, Scotty Too Hotty and Grandmaster Sexay Brian himself win the tag team titles.
All right.
They are champions. Grace.
Hell yeah.
That is Grace right here. He is at the in the WWF at the time and doing very well. He's got a belt that he's holding. It's wonderful here. Now, the problem is he's also got some underlying issues. Like a lot of guys do. That this is all great and wonderful, and we've talked about his career, but he also likes to party. He also gets into drugs a little bit.
He needs some stuff to deal with.
Also, physically enhancing drugs and steroids and things like that. Jerry Lawler's lawyer at one point here later on would say, quote, Brian had been diagnosed with a major depression disorder. The Brian you saw on television worked hard to be that Brian because he was managing depression. That's kind of his deal. He self-medicates and he's got a depression issue. He's got some problems here. Kevin, his brother, said that he thinks that his brother was always bipolar, even from back in the day.
Probably.
He said, quote, his personality would go from 0 to 100 and back again. Always. He's very much like that. He's manic and he's fucking down, but it's not like he's manic for 3 days and he's down. Sometimes it is, but sometimes he's manic for an hour, he's fucking down for an hour, then he's manic again, like hard swings, which is difficult.
It's brutal to manage.
Yeah. Also, Lawler says, and this is ridiculous, Lawler said that this is what Brian told him of how he got into drugs, which is obviously a lie. He said, this is Lawler, quote, this is Jerry Lawler. He said he started when he walked into a dressing room and a tag team was doing coke and they made him do it with them so he wouldn't tell. He said, so, after that he was just into drugs, which... He's on the road and he's hanging out and guys are doing coke and he's a young guy and it's fun and he did it. And that's what it is. But he tells his dad that, like, the business, it pressured me into it. And What are you going to do here? So, but I mean, he's a champ in WWF. Everything's going well for him until 2001 when he has a slight issue at the Calgary International Airport.
Uh-oh, little hiccup there.
Whenever we talk about a wrestler at an airport, it's never a good thing here. Now, this is what Jerry said. Jerry told the press that Brian told him that this is what happened. This is Brian through his dad.
Okay.
He told his dad that he got busted at the airport for having, quote, muscle-enhancing drugs that are legal in the U.S. but not in Canada.
Okay.
He says, Jerry Lawler said that the drugs were similar to, quote, to the Mark McGuire stuff. Because this is 2001, so they're talking about Mark McGuire, in case you're young, the baseball player who had fucking 100 home runs and 74 home runs or whatever in 1998. And
certainly didn't do it naturally.
Was jacked up on a bunch of shit. The Mark McGuire stuff that supposedly they're saying that was still when he was saying he was doing it on Andro and not fucking
so he's not saying
steroids.
But he's also saying this is not creatine.
Yeah, he's saying this is it's Andro or whatever it was, whatever supplement's illegal there, but it's legal here. And he said that Brian told his dad here that he told him that he just forgot they were still in the bag. He thought he ditched him at the hotel. He didn't know he had more. He just forgot. It was a brain fart. And, that's all it was. And he's arrested on a Monday afternoon, arriving in Calgary, where the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they ended up finding, this is the problem. That wasn't what they found.
No.
The muscle-enhancing drugs that are legal here. Well, these might be legal somewhere, but they're not legal in either of these countries. They found 1/10 of a gram of methamphetamine, which I don't know if is legal anywhere on this continent.
I also don't know that enhances any muscles.
No, 1/2 gram of cocaine
no good.
As well. Again, not legal either place, and 1/10 of a gram of marijuana. Okay. Which 1/10 of a gram of marijuana is literally he had some shake from a spent bag of weed.
He had resin on his fingertip. That's so little.
Like a gram is Christ, man. I mean,
it's so little.
It's not a lot. A gram. It's like a joint's worth, basically. Like a decent sized joint is a gram.
A good bowl.
You get a couple little. But it depends on the size of your bowl.
Yeah.
But, I'm just talking a standard, nice, decent size. Fat joint you'll get out of a gram.
You know those bowls.
Take 1/10 of that.
The metal bowls you take apart. It might be that.
Yeah, a little more.
Definitely that.
It's a little more than that.
It's definitely that.
The gram's a little bit more than that. Yeah,
but it's definitely that full.
Yeah.
I guess that is. I guess it's probably like 10 of those out of a quarter.
It's like a joint. Yeah. So you take a fat joint and make it take 1/10 of that. Mm-hmm. That's what he had on him. Wow. So that's really not anything there. But yeah, he also didn't 1/10 of a gram of methamphetamine, but that's meth. So that's a little bit different. People buy 1/4 grams of meth as a fucking hit. Right. So it's a different amount. Nobody buys 1/4 gram of weed.
Right. He's got enough here for this to be a problem.
It's a fucking problem here. Now WWE right away said he's not going to be back to the company right away after that. They said he's going to be suspended, and then he's eventually fired the next day altogether for this incident. They get rid of him quick
for 0.3 of a gram combined
of drugs.
Shit.
Yeah, exactly. He's charged with possession of cocaine and methamphetamine. I guess they didn't charge him for the weed in the end, which that's good. He's going to end up pleading guilty in provincial court to the charge of cocaine possession. They dropped the meth possession. Now, the attorneys argued for a conditional discharge, which would allow him to travel into Canada for work and not be banned from the fucking country. The judge agreed and ordered him to pay $50 to a victims fund. Who's the victim here? I don't think there's any victim of this guy having a drop of whatever, but that's fine.
Whatever.
And a $500 donation to a teens drug and alcohol program. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. He does that.
That's his penalty.
That's his penalty.
$550 in fines.
Pretty much, for bringing.
In Canada, that's like 2 beaver pelts.
That's just a couple of beaver pelts and I believe some hockey stick tape.
Yeah.
Not the stick, but the tape you put around at the end of it. Yeah.
And then a jizz donation for the Palins.
Well, obviously, Jesus Christ. And a baker's dozen Tim Horton donuts. That's what that is. Here you go, everybody. I brought it.
Enjoy. I have lived up to my end of
Pelts
this bargain.
And donuts. And the pelt of Sarah Palin, one of Palin's children. I don't know which one. She has 45 of them. It doesn't matter. That's how you know you've done it in Canada. I went westward and I got her. So after firing him, the WWF spokesman at the time said, quote, "I think our actions speak loud and clear about how the WWF feels about drugs." Mm-hmm. And Jerry said, quote, he caught a big break on that with the jail, the fucking not being put in jail or not being banned from Canada. Jerry said, quote, he could have done jail time or been deported and never been able to come back to Canada, which is correct. Now, Jerry also says the judge told Brian this, quote, well, I'm probably not the right thing as far as the public is concerned because they like to see us make examples out of people like you, but I'm going to cut you a break. And he said the judge dismissed all the charges, so it's like it didn't even happen, which isn't true. He pleaded guilty. But Jerry's trying to make it look better than it is here. Of course. He can come back to Canada anytime he wants. And yeah. So he says, Jerry says that's just how it is. That's how the WWE operates. He says, quote, the truth of the matter is that ever since I've been there, that's like the one rule. If somebody had been caught with drugs in the United States, it wouldn't be nearly as big a deal. But getting caught at the border in Canada causes a major problem with the WWF. Anytime anything connected with the WWF goes through the border, they will literally stop their big 18-wheeler rigs with all their equipment in it and make them unload the whole thing where they check everything in there. Wow. That's crazy. It causes the WWF a tremendous amount of headaches. That's always been the one long-standing rule. If you ever get caught or cause any problems at the Canadian border, you're going to get fired. Mm-hmm. So he's saying that's just the way it is there. He thought it was going to be fine, though. He thought he was good, and people around him, he still had a good enough veneer on him to where he was like, I'll be fine. It's no big deal. I can bounce back. And, he still had money in the bank and he's still pretty famous and
it's
everything.
Only $550 fine.
That's what I mean. It's just a bump in the road and everything's kind of fine. And his brother Kevin even said, like, he wasn't even that concerned about him at that point. Like, he said, quote, I wasn't even sure if he had a problem. I thought this is the stuff he got into and maybe he'll learn not to mess up again. Yeah. That's his quote. He was like, I figured he's just fucking around.
And it's such a small amount.
Yeah, he even could have said, dude, I forgot that shit was even in my bag. Yeah. Like, I thought I was done with that shit. I thought I did a little, and I must have just thrown it back in the bag.
Honest, I thought I did all of it. I didn't realize I left a little left.
Long night, didn't realize. I thought if I, don't know. So here he kind of bounces around after this. He goes to, he does some like indie promotion shit. And the thing about the indie promotions, if you recently had worked for WWE and then you go on the indies, you're a big draw because you were just on TV and a big famous guy, and now you're at the rec center in front of 300 people. So people are
stuff.
Now they can come
questions.
They can come get your autograph after the show. They can come meet you, and you were a big star on TV last week, so you're going to you do pretty well. Of course, the WWE is going to take your name,
right?
So that's a problem.
It's tough.
I'd like to know if because they bring you in. This is a question maybe for the wrestlers out there. They bring you in currently. Whatever your fucking name is before that ain't your name now.
Right.
Because they need to give you a name that they can own so they can market it and own the trademarks and everything. That way, also, they have leverage on you, whereas if you leave without your name that you've gotten famous with.
Right.
That's the thing. But do they own the name that you had when you came there? Do they buy that from you, I wonder? Because I know they can't just claim it as their trademark now, because that's how like guys like Macho Man and Hulk Hogan got grandfathered into that, because that was their name before they got there.
Well, David Bautista, is that his name? Dave Bautista?
Yeah.
That's right, his name, right? Or is it Matt? No, it's Dave.
It's Dave. It's Dave.
So he's in
that's his name, though.
Right.
That's his real name. You can't trademark like Bret Hart.
Yeah.
He's always Bret Hart.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere and be Bret Hart because his fucking name is Bret Hart.
So Bautista goes and does movies now when he goes under Dave Bautista.
Yeah, because that's his name. Yeah. I think that's his real name.
Right.
And he was Batista in there, so they can't take that away from him.
Can they take from him?
Well, they can't. He can't be Grandmaster Sexay anymore. He can't be that. He can be Brian Lawler.
Yeah.
Even Brian Christopher they might own after that. I'm not sure. So it's but he had it before that. But it's still USWA. I don't know if their trademark. I don't know how WWE was, because I know they got really tough on the intellectual property shit in the 90s. But I'm not sure if in 93 they were still had that business sense of
smart to do that,
to blanket everything on it. I'm not sure.
They look like dicks, but I understand it.
Yeah. Well, they make these guys. The leverage on it's a little ridiculous. I don't know. I get that you put the guy on television and made him this and that, but I don't know. It's the guy's fucking name now.
The guy's got to do
tough,
that too.
Man.
I mean, he earned it.
It's tough. I don't know. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're going to use The Rock for somebody else.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to be Grandmaster. Someone else going to be Grandmaster Sexay.
Right.
No, let him use it. But whatever. I'm curious of that though. Like, it's strange. So anyway, he ends up bouncing around a little bit, does the indies. In 2002, he hooks up with TNA Wrestling. And this is, well, obviously now they're kind of in the shits, but this is when they were, I don't even know if they were on TV yet or if they were still doing weekly pay-per-views back in this time. So this was like infancy of TNA when they still had the Octagon ring and all that shit. Totally different thing here. But he was in a tag team, kind of a group with Eric Watts, who is Bill Watts, the promoter from Mid-South's son, who was kind of cast aside because he was Bill Watts' son, and David Flair, who was Ric Flair's son. Right. So he's like it's like the Legends Kids group is what it is, basically.
This is the kids table at WWE Thanksgiving.
Exactly what it is. Yeah, all of us going, we're not as famous as our dads, are we? So he works there from June 2002 to April 2004, and he's Brian Lawler here. So that's one name WWE cannot own. So that makes me think they might own Brian Christopher.
They've got to.
I'm not sure, but Brian Lawler, obviously, he's allowed to use because it's him. And so this was the first time that he's gone under Lawler in public, though. This is the first time since he's been in wrestling that he's Lawler, and he's saying, I'm Jerry Lawler's kid publicly. So this is kind of a
deal.
Everybody knew it, but now it's like, oh, they're finally saying it now. Interesting. Okay.
It's like Ellen DeGeneres coming out as gay. Really? We needed that?
Yeah. It was Neil Patrick Harris.
Right. Are really? Are we?
Yeah, we get it.
He was on Broadway.
The best one was Clay Aiken.
Yeah. Clay,
dude,
you're wasted. You're wasted words and
you
breath.
You didn't even
bro.
have to say it.
Get back to writing songs.
Yeah.
We know.
If I met a nice gay guy to try to set you up with him, like that's how much I wouldn't even have said you're gay, right? I would have just been like, I met this guy you're gonna love. I think you guys are gonna get along terrifically. He likes the same things you like, and like if we were friends and I knew a dude that was good for him, I would have set him up with him. Hardcore.
It was very obvious.
Without even a thought. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine.
No.
Be as gay as you want to be.
It's hilarious that it's funny we didn't know.
Yeah. It's like, no, we got you, dude. We're good.
Yeah.
We're all square. Nobody minds. It's not like anyone was like, well, I don't like him now.
Right.
We're like, we knew. Anyone who liked you knew already. Trust me.
There weren't even any girls that were going, that Clay, I can't wait to meet him. Even every girl was like, I hope he meets a real nice boy.
That's what I mean. Do you know who's the one person on earth who didn't know he was gay and who's a huge fan of him?
Who?
My grandmother.
No.
My grandmother watched him on American. No, that boy sings so beautiful. Oh, my, he sings so beautiful, sings like an angel. And she bought his CDs, and she fucking loved Clay Aiken. And then she heard he was gay. She's like, oh, Ma, what do you mean?
He's such a nice boy.
Grandma, look at him. I mean, not like whatever, but I mean, he's not exactly fucking hiding it. Yeah. He's a gay guy. Who cares?
Grandma, he has blush on.
Oh, Mayo. I didn't know. It's like, what do you fucking care?
The man has eyeshadow on. Yeah. What are you talking about?
It was she had to really, did anyone tell you about Liberace yet, too? Because he was also.
I want to break your
heart here, Grandma, but Jesus Christ.
John, I got some news for you.
She didn't even really care. That was the thing. I didn't mind. She was just like surprised by it. I was like, really?
She felt lied to.
Yeah. It's very strange. Anyone tell you Shaq is black yet? Have you figured that out? Because he is.
I was heartbroken when I found out Kate McKinnon was gay because she's fucking hysterical, and I think she is goddamn gorgeous.
To her, yeah.
She's gorgeous. I love her.
Jimmie had a future planned out. That's why he was disappointed. That's the only reason.
Married.
He's like, oh, this is going to work someday. Oh, shit. She's not going to like me.
She's going to hate me.
I still like her, but she's not going to like me.
I still love her to death. I support everything she does, and I think she's glorious. She's hysterically funny. Boy, oh boy, is she good.
Shit, yeah, she is. Fucking funny as hell.
As soon as she dressed up as Justin Bieber, I should have known just by how well she played him that she's seen a woman be a man before, or be a masculine role before.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's very, 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 very good at being
not a man.
No,
don't say that.
At being anything she wants to be in impressions.
Jimmie didn't mean that, by the way.
Such a great impressionist.
He had his hand in the air, grabbing like he was massaging a nutsack. Like he was tickling a nutsack. Imagine if your fingers in that motion tickling a whole nutsack while he was physically looking for the word.
Impressionist.
And that wasn't the right word.
No, she's so good.
You missed it.
I love
Bottom line is she's really good, and Clay Aiken's also a great singer. Yes, it doesn't matter who they fuck.
I was just heartbroken.
It's fucking great. So, he's in TNA for a while here. dicking around. I mean, it didn't matter what anybody did in TNA at that point, though. He was fighting like, Six Pac. Remember him there?
Yeah.
And was fighting him, guys like that. There was a lot of kind of ex-WWE guys in TNA at the time.
Is Six Pac and X Pac the same guy?
Yeah. They just,
He just needed the whole gimmick. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he couldn't be the 1, 2, 3 kid when he went to WCW. So then he was 6, which was
1, 2, 3
1
together.
plus 2 plus 3. And then he went by Six Pac as like a joke because it was like Tupac.
Right.
And then he went back to WWF, and then he couldn't use Six Pac, so he went with X Pac.
Got it.
Instead, because he was in Degeneration X.
Was he the one that started
intellectual property.
The X on the
I
balls?
believe that was Shawn Michaels that started that. Shawn Michaels and Triple H started that together, and I think
he was doing it too.
Oh, he was in the group, because he was part of their little clique.
Pack?
Yeah, no, that was in WCW.
God damn
that was WCW. That was part of the NWO. This is Degeneration X.
Got it.
And when he got fired from WCW, and they signed him back in WWF, he went back and became part of that group, which constantly chopping at their crotches.
Yeah.
But I think Shawn Michaels was the first one to do it on TV.
It's the weirdest thing.
And he got in trouble for it.
Really?
And then he was like, basically like, fuck you. That's what I should be doing. That's cool and blah, blah, blah. And Vince McMahon was like, that's what I'm talking about. Literally, everyone else was like, they brought him in to yell at him. And then when he said his case, Vince was like, what's wrong with you? You can't see that he's right. Like, grab your balls. Get your tits out. Let's do this. Everybody take your shirts off, damn it.
Separated my quads for this.
Overalls for everyone. So in 2004, Jim Ross brings him back into WWE for a minute. It only lasts 4 matches.
Oh.
It's not very long. He doesn't do much. He's a couple of Monday Night Raw appearances. Kane beats the shit out of him in 2 minutes on Monday Night Raw, and that sort of thing. Not really. Basically, every match I see that he was on WWE is he loses in 2 minutes. So they bring him back as a name guy who they can use as a jobber, basically.
Brutal.
Yeah, he's a guy. You know who he is. Now we're going to watch this new guy beat the shit out of him.
That's
Isn't that
brutal,
great?
Man. That's not a life at all.
No, and that's kind of the second coming of wrestlers. It's the equivalent of being banished to cruise ships, or something like, it's not great.
That's like Michael Jordan getting dunked on by everybody in the NBA today.
Yeah,
that's just I don't want to watch that.
Nobody wants to see that.
We know that they're younger than him. Jesus,
we get it. We get it. So it's at this point that his partying and his drug use are a little bit out of control. A bit out of control, you could say. His wife at this point tries to stage an intervention. This is what happened. He said, Jerry, his dad, says, quote, "It was like having a surprise birthday party for someone who didn't like birthday parties. His mom was crying, his wife was crying, and he was shaking his head like, I don't know why you think it's so bad." He didn't think he had a problem.
Wow.
So he was like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with all of you people, but they were all, clearly they saw what was wrong. They saw there was a goddamn issue there. Now he's still wrestling though. He's doing independence. He's not in anything major. He's doing Memphis wrestling throwback nights they have, and he's just doing independent shit. In 2006 though, WWE comes out with their drug policy. And this we've talked about before, is a sweeping drug policy that they basically send a letter out to everyone who's ever worked in WWE saying, if you have, because they were getting sued by people saying they contributed to their drug problem and didn't give them any help. So to publicly make a nice public image here, this is what you do when you're a publicly traded company. They put out a policy where they send everybody a letter saying, if you have had any problem with drugs, past, future, current, now, fucking while ago, and you want treatment, you just let us know and we'll pay for it. We'll send you to treatment. And that's the deal. And depending on how famous you were for them is how often they'll send you to treatment.
Right.
Because they sent Tammy like 13 times. Tammy Sitch, I think we found, but then other guys, they do it once and they're like, go fuck yourself.
That poor woman, man.
Yeah, Tammy's.
I feel so bad for her.
I do too, man.
She's never going to fix it. She's never going to stop.
She can't. It seems like whenever she's doing better, she comes back out with another drug issue and some kind of,
and then can't get something on the
craziness
books corrected, like something on her license or whatever.
Yeah,
and she can't make any goddamn money, so she's doing goddamn piece
and then she's
shows.
Also climbing into people's, breaking and entering with the crazy. She's also got all sorts of crazy, like, personal problems.
Poor girl.
But this wellness program is what they call it, the WWE, which is funny. That's the program for people who did a bunch of drugs, the wellness program. So Brian ends up, everybody's pressuring him, so he registers for the program twice. And his brother said that he'd just go to shut everybody up. So he'd be like, fine, I'll go to rehab. And he's like, I do a month in rehab and then I can come back and I get a little space from these people. They give me a little buffer.
Yeah.
Well, also when I get back, then they think I'm good for a while and I've done what they wanted and they leave me alone for a while.
I've earned the trust.
Yes. Yeah. His brother also said, and he was thinking if he went, maybe WWE would give him his job back, but there was never any commitment to the program. He was going to shut his family up, and if he says, hey, look what a good boy I am, maybe WWE would take another look at him, like they did with a bunch of people. Sure. They brought Marty Jannetty back fucking 20 times. Every time. Dude, and that guy, no one has had more of a drug problem over time than Marty Jannetty. He'll be an episode someday. Trust me. I've been planning that one for a while. They brought him back a shitload of times, so he's not wrong to feel like this. That's kind of the way you do it. You go in, you show how great you are. Scott Hall does the same thing. They bring him back
constantly.
It's how it works there. Vince, unless you really fuck Vince over good, he brings you back. There's like 2 guys in history that he didn't bring back because he said fuck them, and that was like Lex Luger and somebody else, because Lex Luger left and went to Monday Nitro like without any notice.
Really?
So yeah, his contract was up. They had a verbal agreement, and then instead he just went and showed up on the other show as a surprise.
Wow.
They said that was the only guy he'd never fucking bring back, and I'm sure there's a couple others, but yeah, it's you have to really fuck up bad here. So, but he keeps going. Jerry said also Jerry had sent him to rehab before and spent a lot of money, and he said nothing. It wouldn't stick. This is what Jerry says about Brian here. Quote, he left one program because the Steelers game was on. And they weren't showing it at the rehab center.
So he's not. Fuck this drug stuff.
That's your priorities.
Wow.
Your priorities are, well, the game's on, so who cares?
Can't be here.
So clearly he's not real into this. Yeah. He said, quote, it just wasn't sinking in. He told me, I've been through this too many times. Rehab doesn't work. And Jerry said, quote, here's a guy who had $300,000 in the bank, a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, a child, and he lost everything one by one. He couldn't understand why everyone was so concerned about him, which, God damn it, we've seen this so often with crime in sports.
So much.
And he's not, this thing here, it's hard because he's not hurting anybody. He doesn't hurt anybody. It's hard to hate a guy who came up in the shadow of his dad and hasn't really hurt anybody. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like Fly Williams is hard to hate. You couldn't hate Fly Williams.
No,
He's just a fun fucking guy that has self-destructive problems, you know, one of those things, but he's not hurting anybody here. So, he said there was times that, like, from time to time, he would go through times of being better and worse. He would show up at an indie show looking good, doing fucking, working a good match, being alert and talking to the guys and being all into it in his, manic phase.
Right.
And he said, his brother said, quote, I'd start to think, well, maybe he's getting a little better. There'd be patches where you could be around him and he wouldn't seem so bad. So that gives you false hope that maybe they're coming around, but for him, it's just the bottom of the roller coaster, or the top, however you want to look at it here. 2006 and 2007, he continues the indie scene. He wrestles him and Rikishi team up. I assume to put Rikishi's fat ass in somebody's face because they won. He's wrestling all sorts of indie shit here. Just nothing to speak of that's that important. 2008, he's wrestling more indie shit. He's wrestling against like Doug Gilbert, who's Eddie Gilbert's brother. He gets divorced in 2008.
Of course.
So now his wife he's done a lot of drugs. He's clearly not going back to the big time in wrestling.
Her patience is thin.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And I think it's not that I'm not saying she wants to leave him because he's not going to go back to the big time.
No, he's
not helping himself any.
And he's draining her life of energy and probably money.
That's the thing.
The house looks like shit.
To have a spouse who's a drug addict like that and someone who's also on the road and a drug addict is
and making less money than they're spending.
That's the thing. That's got to be exhausting. And also they have a child as well. Yeah. So that's another problem. She's got a kid at home. And now February 2009, this is the one thing I can't find a lot of information on. February 2009, he's arrested for disorderly conduct. Don't know exactly what happened. I know it was some kind of scuffle somewhere, but I don't exactly know what happened here. I believe alcohol was involved,
of course,
and some fighting was involved. Could have been a bar fight type of thing. I'm not sure. I don't have all the information on that. But he continues wrestling in 2009. God damn it, the Nasty Boys were still wrestling in 2009. I know they're probably still out there, but Fuck, they must have been old. Think about that.
That's sad.
Jesus Christ, man.
They should be able to quit by now.
I mean, fucking, they were like, Knobs was limping in the 90s. I can't imagine what he was doing in 2009, for Christ's sake. Jesus. So, early June 2009, though, here. This is a problem here. He, was apparently, hitting on somebody's girlfriend at a bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Her boyfriend happened to be an MMA fighter who doesn't take kindly to people hitting on his girlfriend in bars, which is why he started training for MMA in the first place. I feel like
he hits people for real.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He knows. Yeah, he'll tie you up in knots here. So not in circles. That would be easy to get out of. So, apparently they ended up getting into a fight. And it spills outside. I guess they apparently knocked over a couple of motorcycles in the middle of their fight.
No.
Now, this is like every device. Stereotypical, like, hitting on a girl and her husband's a professional fighter.
Right.
And you go outside, bump into a motorcycle, and 8 Hell's Angels walk out with fucking swinging chains and shit.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And then you get up on the fucking bar and sing Tequila. I guess is what happens.
And platform shoes.
That's the only way to solve everything. So yeah, apparently they knocked over a motorcycle. Bikers came out, and then the MMA guy's friend said he did it about Brian, so then all the bikers beat the shit out of Brian.
The only thing crazier and less respectful of people's property and faces are bikers.
Are bikers, that's it.
Right.
MMA guys are bikers.
Right.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah. So then they beat the shit out of him.
Respectful all the way down the line. You found him.
It's not good. Yeah, it's not great. Maybe if it was Memphis, he could have thrown a Jerry Lawler thing out there, but otherwise it's not going to work. So he gets the shit beaten out of him good here in that one. I don't know if it caused brain damage or whatever, but a few weeks later, he's doing some stupid stuff here. June 27th, 2009, just before 3 a.m. At a Circle K convenience store on the Highway 45 bypass and Old Hickory Drive.
Oh, boy.
Right away. Does that sound like something good's going to happen?
No.
3 a.m. at a Circle K?
At Old Hickory Drive.
And the Highway 45 bypass? Fuck that.
May as well be milepost 43.
You just know something bad's going to happen. So apparently Brian was there.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is his mugshot from this evening, as you can see. That's a great one, isn't it?
He is hammered.
I'll post. That'll be the social media post there. Apparently they noticed him get out, start to come into the store. You know how some of the Circle K's have like the big soda coolers outside with the doors where you get the sodas in there, just the big ones. He apparently tripped, bumped into it, and fell down. He knocked himself.
The soda machine tripped him,
and then he ended up like knocking the cooler like sideways into something.
Oh,
like he bumped into it and fucked the whole. I don't know how you knock over a soda cooler, but. I don't know if it's one of the small ones and he ran into the front of it and knocked it backwards, maybe, is all I can think.
You get a bottle out and it has a bottle opener on the front?
No, not one of those. Just one of the smaller, gas station ones that are like kind of hip height.
Yeah.
One of those where you open the glass doors and they have them that slide open. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those deals here. So right away, the clerk was concerned that this guy, might be in an advanced state of shit-facedness at 3 a.m., tripping over Coke coolers.
Likely.
Yeah, let's see. The officers, he calls the cops. I'm going to call the cops and get them here just in case here. Officers arrived. They find Brian, who they described in the report as, quote, very unsteady on his feet and had slurred speech. So now they tell him, because he's like bumping into shit around the store, they tell him, you're highly intoxicated. We have to take you into custody. The report said he was, quote, taken into custody for his own safety due to his high level of intoxication. He can't manage his way into a fucking Circle K without knocking over equipment. He's should be sitting somewhere for a while. So they said once they take him into custody, he, quote, became very belligerent. This is wonderful.
They do that.
He cursed at an officer, told the officer that once he takes these handcuffs off him, he's going to rip the officer's head off.
Oh, that's a threat. right?
Can't do that.
No.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, he can't say, take these cuffs off, I'll rip your fucking head off. That's not going to work to a cop. So, yeah, the clerk said he saw him fall over the cooler. He broke something, caused $200 worth of damage to the cooler. And
that's a whole cooler.
That's a whole cooler. Yeah, he broke the thing somehow. So you knock it over. Wow, that's going to break there. So, yeah, unsteady on his feet, and he's going to rip off his head is what he said. He's only charged with public intoxication, though.
That's it?
They were kind to him.
Yeah.
They could have tacked on more shit. Yeah, everything else, but public intoxication. So 3 days later, he goes to court for it, though.
Oh, he's going to stay in jail.
He goes to court, and they're telling him, no, he bonded out from that. It's just public intoxication. Okay. It's probably next morning you can bond out on your own ROR.
Yeah.
The judge tells him he must choose because this is his second. He had a disorderly conduct
just a little bit ago,
and then this year. So the judge says you can choose between serving 30 days in jail or 30 days in an inpatient treatment center, because clearly there's a certain issue that's causing all of your problems.
And we know it.
And we know what it is. Yeah. It's fucking booze and drugs.
We're nailing it down.
So, yeah, they said he must make his decision by the next court appearance. So he ends up deciding to take the inpatient because it's either way you're going somewhere for a month.
Yeah.
Probably hospital's better than jail.
Sure.
Any day of the week, I would say, if you're, a sane person who doesn't want to be in fucking jail.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a little more leeway in a hospital, right?
I think so.
In a rehab center?
I doubt there's so many.
It's not a mental institution.
Yeah, I doubt
like
there's so many
criminal
of those
mental.
handcuffs,
Yeah.
And those goddamn
gates.
Yeah, violent criminals.
Yeah.
Those guys. Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah. It's people going like, I'm very sad because my dad left me when I was 4.
Right.
And then I drink because of that.
Right.
Like that. I'd rather have that than a guy that's like, hey, motherfucker, give me your ramen noodles.
Right.
Like, I'll take that any day of the week.
My wife left, so I drink a lot.
Yeah, that's better than I'll stab you for a honey bun.
Right.
Much better.
I'll stab you because you're white. You're white too.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
We're both white, and you have a honey bun. What are we talking about? We're both white. We're both holding honey buns. Get away from me. That's how stupid jail is.
Right.
Go to the fucking inpatient thing. Problem is, he doesn't show up for it at all.
Oh, no.
Yes, that's part of his plea agreement. So they issue a warrant for his arrest, and he is jailed for 30 days for failing to go to the inpatient.
Idiot.
So he fucked that up too. So he keeps getting by. In 2010, he appears on a local ABC Memphis affiliate show with his dad.
Yeah.
They go over old clips of the Memphis wrestling promotion. Jesus. That's how big wrestling was back then. In 2010, they were doing clip show retrospectives on the fucking air. That's how important that was to these people.
His kid.
Yep. And, they talked about how they, kept everything hidden back then. And, but on the show, for the first time in Memphis, Jerry said, this guy right here is my son, Brian Christopher Lawler. And then, Brian turned and he said, really? Did you Wikipedia me? Where'd you get that? I didn't know that. They're playing a little game there.
That's so funny.
That sounds better than what else he's doing, which is wrestling for Showtime All-Star Wrestling and Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
No.
Yeah.
He's wrestling in ICP
he's
shit?
wrestling with the clowns.
Oh, my God.
From what I understand, those guys...
Oh, but they attract a crowd.
They also really love wrestling.
Yeah.
Their
fans do.
I've heard wrestlers talk about, they're like, dude, those guys fucking love it. Like, they trained... They trained. Like they didn't just go in and be like, yo, fuck it, I'm famous. Like they went to training to do it, and they actually take bumps and beat the shit out of themselves. And people have respect for those guys, even though they're idiot clowns.
They invited Eminem.
They
told him they'd wrestle him.
I think their music's terrible, and I fucking hate clowns. But any two idiots that can build an empire out of nothing is. Hey, you know what?
Good for you.
Tip of the cap to you, because we're sitting here going, that's what we're trying to do
those
too.
Those idiots
without
got
the makeup.
Got that gross music on the radio.
That's what I mean. They sold
that's crazy.
Millions of albums, these people. That's, dude, props to you. I don't give a shit
who
if
they
I like
are.
it or not.
That's amazing.
There you go. If I say Insane Clown Posse, people roll their eyes.
Right.
That means you're famous.
Yeah.
You win.
They figured it out.
They figured it out, man. So, he's wrestling these independents here. Apparently, one night at the in Tennessee, he's in a bit of a brawl, backstage with another wrestler where he has some shit happen to him here. And this is told, I found this in a kind of a dirt sheet type of thing. This is told by another wrestler who was there. So other people had slightly different takes on it, but it was this is what generally happened, minus like maybe this guy did this first or that guy did that first.
Got it.
This is the result of it, and this is the guy who was the most voluble about it, had the most to say, so I'm going to use him. Okay. It's a guy named Motley Cruz.
Motherfucker.
I knew you. I said that. I'm just staring at you deadpan.
God damn it.
He says, quote, the issue started after the match between Bryan and Seth Knight. Bryan had issues with the ref TJ, who happens to be related to Bishop, and stiffed the kid in the ring. Apparently there was a disagreement between Bryan and the referee, and apparently I think there's supposed to be a ref bump where the guys bump into the referee, and Bryan gave him a good shot on purpose because he was pissed off at him. This Motley Cruz says, quote, I give TJ credit because he was man enough to come to the locker room and confront Bryan. That's the referee. And confront Bryan, punching him in the mouth for stiffing him.
Wow.
So the ref came in and punched him, at which point Bryan jumped on TJ, and Bishop stepped in and pulled Bryan off and had TJ leave the locker room till everything calmed down. At that point, everyone thought the problem was over. Nothing else happens until Bishop returned to the locker room after a 20-minute match with Rocker, blowed up, and Brian Christopher sucker punched him in the mouth with a pair of handcuffs as he was walking through the curtain. So that's what he's saying. Now, another guy says that he hit Christopher first. That's the only discrepancy really here. At that point, Bishop speared Bryan through a thick wooden rail, and Bryan attempted to grab him in a front face lock and laid on top of him, knowing that Bishop was blown up from the match. He's too tired is what that means. Bishop got out from underneath him and pinned him against the wall by the throat and gave him a few choice words. Bishop was talked into letting him go, and as Bishop was walking off, it occurred to him that he had been sucker punched in the mouth with a pair of handcuffs, and he got pissed off all over again, and he told Bryan, quote, your daddy isn't going to save you here, or your daddy isn't here to save you, and hit Bryan in the face with a barbed wire baseball bat.
Whoa.
Okay. That's where it gets serious.
Yeah.
So he hit him in the face with a barbed wire baseball bat. If you don't know what that is, if you've never seen it, this used to be used in wrestling a lot.
Yeah.
Take a baseball bat, like an aluminum one, and wrap the business end of it in barbed wire, thick. Not once, like over and over and over and over again.
Like Jesus's crown.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, the thing with this is, actually, the strange thing is, obviously it's bad to get the barbs in your head. That cuts you. But if you have to be hit in the head with a baseball bat, this is the way to do it because it cushions the blow.
Right.
You don't get the ding off the aluminum because you're cushioned by the shit. So
oh my God.
The fact that it sticks in your head is bad, but it also keeps you from fracturing your skull.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
That's why they used to use these things. And there's matches I've seen in like ECW between Ian and Axel Rotten where they hit each other full on and get the fucking thing stuck in each other's arms, and they're having to rip the fucking thing out. They still have scars to this day from the shit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts. So anyway, he said he proceeded to hit him with a barbed wire baseball bat and proceeded to beat his ass with his fist until Bryan was able to get on top and lay on Bishop again, bleeding like crazy from his face because, he had barbed wire in it.
Hit in the fucking face.
They were broke up again. They were again broke up. Bishop was still mad about being sucker punched in the mouth with a pair of handcuffs and went into his bag to get something to hit Bryan. I think it's even.
Maybe we stop now?
Maybe we stop. The two squared off again. Bryan hit Bishop square in the face, and he did not budge Bishop, and Bishop was back on Bryan, beating the hell out of him again. Bryan was again able to work his way on top and lay on Bishop. Dustin Starr walked over, wiped all the blood off Bryan's face, and pleaded for them to stop fighting. They finally separated, and that was the end of the fight. So that's a pretty rough fight back there. When there's weapons involved, it's not just two guys punching each other in the face.
Medieval ones.
That's different. Yeah, you don't fucking hit somebody with
That's a modern day mace.
Yeah, that's brutal, man.
Yeah.
So 2011, he wrestles in a few of these indies: Main Event Championship Wrestling, Crossfire Championship Wrestling. 2011, he also appears on Raw.
Yeah.
He does a segment on Monday Night Raw where it's a segment with his dad, where his dad's involved with a storyline with the basically he's playing the role of the neglected son. Okay. He's saying the two commentators, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, are fighting, and Brian is taking the other commentator's side, saying that he felt his father was ashamed of him and all this type of shit. He tells the crowd, quote, "I never ever felt like I had a father," and while Jerry Lawler was traveling around the world being the king, he neglected one thing, me. Like he's doing playing that all up. So Jerry says to him, "You're not the only one that's glad you didn't use the Lawler name, because you see, Brian, you're a bigger screw up than Charlie Sheen," which was a big punchline in 2011 because he was he was a fucking cokehead AIDS monkey at the time.
Off the rails.
Yeah, so it's a mess. Actually, I meant to say an AIDS-ridden coke monkey, and I flipped him. Either way,
it all works.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
So 2012, he's wrestling in Crossfire Wrestling, Canadian Wrestling's Elite, and Great Lakes Championship Wrestling. Always the best. 2013, he's hooking up with Rikishi again to do some tag teaming. 2013, also on April 11th, he is stopped by police. He's pulled over on April 11th after he failed to stop at a stop sign, and he's charged with a DUI. And because he is under the influence, as he's being taken into custody, he admitted that he consumed about half a bottle of vodka. And he said, "I also took some Xanax and some methadone as well." Methadone, Xanax. And about a half a bottle of vodka.
That's a lot.
I'm a little fucked up.
Yeah.
They said that he could not complete the alphabet during his field sobriety.
I believe it.
Not backwards, fucking forwards.
I believe it.
That's fucked up.
Dude, take 2 Xanax and see if you can spell
and a half
name.
A bottle of vodka?
No, I'm just saying, just take 2 Xanax and see if you can spell your kid's name.
I bet he took 6 and a half a bottle of vodka, too.
I'll bet
That's
you
the
stutter
other thing.
spelling Joey.
He probably. Well, he fails this test, and it's not great for him. He gets arrested for DUI, and he does get bailed out on $1,000 bond. Mm-hmm. So now, like everyone knows he can't just say, "What's everybody so upset about?" anymore. It's clear there's a huge fucking problem.
Enormous.
It's an enormous problem, and it's been going on for 15 fucking years at least now that we know of. What is he going to do here? He gets released from jail. This guy's got nowhere to go, really. That's the thing. Now he's divorced. Yeah. He's working the indie scene. He doesn't have you know what I mean? There's no home base. This is one of those, I ever see on The Wire when Bubbles, he quits doing heroin and he doesn't know what to do with himself. The whole thing is he's like, now what do I do with my days? Because like his sister, he stays in his sister's basement and his sister won't let him stay down there when she's at work. He has to leave the house. So he's like, please let me stay here, because he doesn't want to go out into the world where thero's a bunch of heroin for him to use. So he has to go.
Yeah, that seems like a bad plan for somebody that's on heroin.
But he had robbed her a bunch of times. She said, "Last time you let you stay here, you sold all my kitchen appliances.
You sold my kitchen.
So I can't let you into the house. So when I'm gone, you're gone too." He was locked in the basement. Yeah. So anyway, it's one of those things here. It's a Bubbles thing where Bubbles goes and sits in the park and he's looking around and he's like, hearing birds, and he's like, "Wow, I'm always trying to get heroin. I never notice birds." Like he doesn't say it, but you see it in his face. Like, that's weird. Yeah. Like I'm seeing shit that I don't normally see because I'm just always on a mission. Yeah. And that's what I think Brian's doing. He's just sitting there and going, "Man, this is just to take it in for a second and relax." But then it's a quiet day too in the park. It's great. But then the quiet is shattered by just a bunch of dogs barking. And Brian doesn't know what's going on, and he looks up, and it's Bobby Colorado, animal trainer from Fredericksburg, Texas. And he says, "How is it you come to arrive here? What the fuck is wrong with you? Your fucking father's famous. You got all this fucking money. You get you into the goddamn thing there. You're wrestling around, bouncing around like a fucking jerk off. I don't know what you do. You don't need this. You don't need to go on the road. Here's what you do. Go back to, you got an apartment or something. Go back there. Get yourself a nice fucking dog. You don't need drugs. Right. You pet his fucking head. You know what that feels like? Get right between their eyes. It's like, it's velvety when you feel it out. They fucking wag the tail. You feel good. It's like heroin. Let me tell you something. Quit being a fucking jerk off, by the way. I'm just going to tell you that right now. No, you can't have one of my dogs because you're going to lose it or something. You're on drugs. You're driving like an asshole.
Get cleaned up first.
You get yourself cleaned up, then you Go to the pound. Start there. You know what I'm saying?
So you can keep a plant alive for 30 days.
That's what I'm saying. You know, one of them $25 pound dogs, and we'll see how it works from now. Geez, the dogs are pulling me away. I gotta go. Poof! And in a puff of marinara sauce and dog shit, he's gone, and Brian is excessively confused.
Sure.
He has no idea what's going on, but he's considering a dog. That's the good part there. 2014, still wrestling. Here's his list of promotions: Wildfire Wrestling, Warriors of Wrestling, Revolution Pro Wrestling, Primal Conflict Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Blitz, and Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling.
Oh boy.
Wow. I'm glad to hear there's so many indies going on where guys are getting work, but that doesn't seem like Jesus. And guys like Tracy Smothers are still working in 2014. Have been working for 35 years. January 5th, 2014, he also appears on an episode of Raw where they do the Raw old school episode.
He's 45.
Yeah, he appears with Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hottie. It was like they did an old school. They brought guys out from the 80s dressed up in their gear. Yeah. Nikolai Volkov came out, for Christ's sake. It was one of those. 2015, Keystone Pro Wrestling, Preston City Wrestling, West Side Extreme Wrestling with an X, not an E.
You're damn right.
Ultimate Championship Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Pride, which sounds...
Pro Wrestling Pride, that sounds very racist.
To me, that either racist or gay.
Yeah.
Either one.
Yeah.
Could be either one.
Racistly gay.
Isn't that weird? The two people who have chosen to use the words pride are gay people and white supremacists. That's a strange thing.
It's shocking that white supremacists
really
hang
latched
onto
it. Yeah.
After those parades started.
That's funny. When you see a Klan rally and they all have those big rainbow flags, I'm really going to be confused then. And be like, no, they're doing this on purpose. Also, Target Wrestling. I'm not sure if it's at a Target or not. It could literally be in like the frozen food aisle of a Target. We're not sure. You never know. 2016, he's doing Hoosier Wrestling. I guess that's in Indiana. And Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling. And 2016, he appears in an Instagram video with Rikishi. Yeah. They're at a Waffle House, and he looks good. Yeah. It's like late at night. It's like after a show. He doesn't look fucked up. He's not slurring his speech. He's like sharp. Yeah. He's got color in his face. People are like, look at Brian. He's looking great. This is terrific. He's making jokes they're talking about what they're eating, and he's got to eat all this chicken and egg whites and all that. He's making jokes to the waitress and entertaining and being kind of old self. You know what I mean? He's having problems. His brother Kevin sums it up well here. He says, quote, "You're doing an indie show in a small town and the people don't know you're flat broke. They're cheering you, taking your picture, and then boom, you leave and you're stuck in the same situation you were in before with the same bad feelings," which is what we just described earlier, which, it's the same thing with
comedy.
It's comedy.
Yeah.
You go to these places, and if you're the middle act, they think, oh man, you traveled here and you came up here, you're probably getting paid good money, and you're getting $100, and you broke even to come here, and you might be sleeping in your car. You're probably sleeping in your car if you couldn't share a room with somebody else or something. So that's what we're talking about.
You don't know somebody that lives here who can sleep on their goddamn couch.
Sleep on their couch, or that's what people do, where they sleep in their car, or they find a couch to crash on.
How many features I know on Facebook? Hey guys, I'm in Cleveland this week. Anybody got a couch I can sleep on?
It's insane.
Ew.
And that, by the way, folks, is making it in comedy.
That's crushing.
You're a career. That's your career.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that's the same thing that goes on here. And then maybe you'll hit the lottery. It's the same exact fucking thing as wrestling.
I'll bring a 6-pack of beer. Thank you.
Thanks.
For 3 beers.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for 3 beers. I don't get them all. Jerry sums it up very, very well here about Brian. He says, quote, "Did you ever see that movie, The Wrestler?" Obviously, the Mickey Rourke movie. He says, "I guess it was loosely based on Jake the Snake Roberts, but it really fits Brian."
Really?
So that's what he's saying. That's who his dad, who knows him kind of pretty well here, that's who he's comparing him to, The Wrestler.
Wow.
So that's exactly what's going on.
That's too bad.
Bad stuff. 2017, Georgia Premier Wrestling, Big Time Wrestling, Freedom Pro Wrestling, and Empire State Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
So he's in all of these different ones. Holy shit. Is he still? Oh, no, I thought that. Oh, my God. The Rock and Roll Express, as of 2017, we're still doing tag team matches.
No.
The Rock and Roll Express and Terry Funk, who's 70 at this point, he could work forever though. They beat Brian Christopher, Doug Gilbert, and Jerry Lawler in 2017.
Jerry Lawler was wrestling.
He's still,
Unreal.
absolutely, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Why do that, Jerry? You have a lot of money. Don't hurt yourself.
You should.
Now, 2018 starts, and it's a rough year for Brian. Right off the bat. In January, his mom's dad dies. His grandfather, who he was reasonably close to, dies. A little depressed about that, but you're in your 40s. You expect
get over that.
You'll get over your grandparents dying because they're old, and you've kind of been tempered to this for a while.
You know that's going to happen.
It's probably your last living grandparent, so you knew that eventually they'd go. But still, very sad. Then February 18th, 2018, middle of the night at a hotel.
Yeah.
Obviously, these are all bad things. Yeah. It's him, and then we're going to talk about a guy who used to work for TNA Impact named Chase Stevens, who's another wrestler. Apparently, middle of the night, Brian stumbles into the lobby of the hotel, covered in blood, with severe facial injuries, described as, quote, swelling all over, an approximate 2-inch laceration to his right eyebrow, orbital socket discoloration, sorry, that's much better, to both eyes, bleeding from the nose, abrasions, and noticeable front tooth dental injuries.
Somebody beat the shit out of him.
That sounds like you got worked over good. Okay, so from everything they gather, the police are called, and they find the Chase Stevens guy in his hotel room. And Stevens told police that Lawler caused problems in a nightclub earlier, and then he refused to go to sleep on the floor of the hotel room. So that was, I guess, his spot for the night. Didn't want to go there, so they ended up getting into a fight. Now, Stevens admits to punching Brian in the face 2 times, but he says it was in self-defense. That's his thing. He said Brian attacked me, and he also said Brian fell and hit the ground, hit his face on the ground.
He's still the strongest man alive.
He's still wandering. Yeah. So they said that there was visible blood stains on the carpet of the room, and a small amount of blood smears on the wall, and a small amount of blood spatter on the sheets. So it was a beating. Yeah. And the trash can inside the room had blood and tissues. Someone was cleaning up blood off their head or something like that. Now, he said that the whole thing, Brian says the whole thing started when he was flirting with a woman that turned out to be this guy's girlfriend. Yeah. This is the second time now. Somebody's worked him over because he's flirting with the wrong guy's girlfriend.
He's got to stop that.
Find out if whoever you're flirting with is with anybody currently that night.
You got a man?
Yeah.
I got to go.
Is he here now?
Right.
If so, have a good one. Right. What the fuck, man? Yeah, he lives in fucking Delaware. Right. That's whatever we could talk about.
Want to dance?
But yeah, he's at the bar. Yeah. He'll be back here in a minute, and he fights MMA. It's a different story. Yeah. Or he's another wrestler. So this wrestler here is the other guy, Stevens, is arrested for beating up Brian. Brian needed surgery afterwards on his face, I guess dental shit and a bunch of other shit too. And he said the report said, quote, this is a police report, Lawler said he was attacked for no reason, but he was very confused. The physician reported that Lawler had several broken bones in his face, broken teeth, and surgery was required. Officers were told that a trauma team had been activated after Lawler's injuries had been evaluated. Lawler was intoxicated on alcohol and admitted he is on several prescription drugs. Lawler told me that he absolutely wants to pursue charges against the other man. So he wants to press charges. I don't know if that changes later when he sobers up, press charges on other wrestlers, kind of. One of those things, gross. It's all in the game,
To press charges for your fucking mistake, bro.
It's a drunken fight in the room. You know what? It's all in the game, man. Yeah. You guys all, you don't do that. Mob guys don't press charges on other mob guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. You fucked up. You fucked up the fucking drop, man. You didn't do it right. You messed it up. Right. So, June 5th, 2008. This was a little before that. Now, June 5th, 2008. Lawler here, Brian, who's now 46, and a friend of his, a 33-year-old Terry.
2018?
2018, I'm sorry. Brian's 46. His friend is 33, who he's with, a guy named Terry Teague, who's another wrestler, I believe. They are at a Hampton Inn.
Oh, no.
And in Memphis at 175 Peabody Place. Yep. And police are flagged down to a disturbance at the Hampton Inn. The hotel manager here tells police that Lawler and Teague had been staying in the room without paying. He said they checked him into the room using a company credit card, but then when they went to pay, the card didn't have enough money to cover it. It's an $802.38 hotel bill. So
it's been there for like 6 months.
It's been there forever. And there's some shitty Memphis hotel. Fucking, they moved in, man.
Yeah.
So that includes furniture.
Right.
So they were booked into here. They're released on a $250 bond, and so there's that. They released them, and now, I mean, dude, everybody reads about this in Memphis. Anything he does in Memphis, it's in the paper, it's on the news, the local news, like. He's just a fucking disaster. It's getting embarrassing, and every time his father's got to try to make, because right away they all go to Jerry. So Jerry, your kid got arrested. What do you think of that? He's got to try to make excuses, and I mean, he's got a kid. He can't be seeing his kid and he can't be a great father right now. Is what I'm getting at. Right. I feel bad for all these people, Jimmy. I really do, but not as bad as I feel for Brian Lawler, a policy analyst at the Georgia Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. Brian Lawler, back-end architect at Wonder Workshop in Fort Collins, Colorado. Brian Lawler, senior account executive in the Department of Defense / Special Programs in Sterling, Virginia. Yeah. Brian Lawler, director at Black Sparrow Business Consulting in Queensland. And Brian Lawler, enterprise risk manager, which definitely not our guy. No risk management at all here at UCI Insurance Services in Massachusetts. So there's that. July 7th, 2018, 1 o'clock in the morning. Think good things are going to happen?
Never.
Think I'm going to say he saves an old lady from a house fire?
No.
He's pulled over at 1 a.m.
Of course.
For swerving and speeding. Problem is, when they hit the lights, he doesn't pull over.
Oh, he takes off.
He takes off. Doesn't really take off, just drives.
Yeah.
And we see this a lot. If you watch Live PD, you'll see this a lot, and there's a reason why people do this. If they're getting pulled over and they're in their own neighborhood, they will drive to their house because it's worth it to them to get that extra charge rather than have their car towed and impounded and then they have to pay to get it out.
Right.
Otherwise, if they can get to their garage or their driveway, they're not going to tow the car out of their driveway.
That's good thinking.
That's why people do it.
That's amazing thinking.
That's exactly why people do it.
You know, it would be smarter thinking is don't fucking drink and drive.
Drink and drive in the first place. But yes, and that's what Brian said. Now, he told the cops when he finally does pull over that I was trying to make it home. Yeah. That's exactly what he was doing. Now, the police officer says that he smelled like alcohol and he had an open 12-ounce can of beer in the car. Okay. Yeah. So the problem is here, so they arrest him for DUI and evading arrest. Okay. He was in this area of Tennessee for a show that was going to be that later on that night that he will never get to. No. Now he's arrested. He had a 0 blood alcohol level though. 0, 0, 0, blue triple zeros on this bad boy. And, he says that he made a deal with the police officer that if the breathalyzer hit 0, he's not going to you're not going to arrest me, right? And the cop said, of course not. And he said and it is that he definitely blew a 000, but he's still arrested for a DUI.
Of course.
They still think he's fucked up in some way. He says that they said he crossed the double yellow lines. He said that he was using his knee to steer at the time. He was doing something else and steering with his knee, probably on his phone or something he was saying. So, that's what he's saying. He's like, I wasn't fucked up swerving. I was just using my knee doing something. And they thought I was fucked up and I had a can of booze in the car, but I wasn't drinking it because I blew 000 and they arrested me anyway. One of those. So his brother says about it, they take him to jail. His brother says, quote, technically he should have never been in jail. It's like the Dukes of Hazzard. The cops see him constantly getting out of stuff and they're looking to put him away. Which is probably true also. They're like, oh, it's this idiot again. And get them Duke boys. Now, okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting here. July 25th, they keep him in jail. And we'll talk about why would they keep him in jail and what ends up happening here. July 25th, we'll talk about what happens when he first gets taken into jail. An officer, Futrell, who's the intake officer, she questions him about, the basic questions, mental health and physical health and things like that. Brian told her he had attempted suicide on 2 occasions and that he had a history of depression and anxiety, and also told her that he had been diagnosed with a major depressive mood disorder and that he was taking a number of prescription medications for depression, anxiety, pain, and inflammation. Because also his fucking body is jacked up after
sure it is.
20 years of wrestling. It's hurting, man. Anybody's is. And he was a guy who would put his body out there too. He would do, it wasn't like his dad where, he'd take one big bump a match or something. He was flying around getting his ass kicked. So, apparently, even though he said all those things, the jail's computer automatically changes his positive response on if he's ever had suicidal things to a negative response, because all this was more than 2 years prior to this incarceration. So didn't count.
Doesn't matter.
Apparently. Yeah. So, apparently it wasn't noted anywhere in the system, nothing like that. So Brian's sitting in jail and Jerry comes to bail him out. The bail is $40,000.
What?
Because he's had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
That's how many issues he's had.
Blew a 000.
And he's it's $40K to get out. That's how much they're like, we don't trust this motherfucker at all. $40,000. Jerry said he got the call and said, not again. He just can't stay straight.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. But he went there. He drives out to the Hardman County Jail in Bolivar, Tennessee. Whew, man. He gets in there. He said everybody there said they all greeted him, asking for autographs, and oh shit, it's Jerry Lawler.
Fuck
and
my daughter.
Selfies. Yeah, would you please impregnate my daughter? Jerry said, quote, it was like a personal appearance. Like it was crazy. They were anywhere in Tennessee is going to be like this, though. So he gets in the jail. He talks to Brian, and he said he started to feel a little better because he heard what happened with Brian, and that that he blew a 000. So that was something he was happy about. He wasn't driving around shit faced or anything like that. He also, the sheriff, John Doolin, then joins the conversation here, and he tells Brian that they had met before, and that when Brian appeared to be driving erratically, and that the sheriff didn't arrest him, but instead pulled him over, then followed him home because he was close to his house. He said, do you remember me from doing that shit? He goes, yeah, so no one's trying to hem you up, basically, is what he's saying.
We've done you favors in the past.
Yeah, we've done you right. Now we're going to fuck you over. So Jerry said, quote, he asked Brian if he remembered, and he did, and the sheriff told him, that's because I care about you. Now go into the bathroom and take a look in the mirror. Brian went into the bathroom, and he looked terrible. I was crying. Brian was crying. So he's saying the sheriff was trying to have his own little intervention about here. So he said that he came there to bond him out, but he was Jerry ended up talking to the sheriff a little more, and they decided that it was pointless to bring Brian home. Jerry Lawler says that the sheriff told him since Brian was scheduled for a court appearance in the next week, at which time he's definitely going to get sentenced because it's a mandatory 90 days for the DUI for him. So he said he's going to get sentenced to that. Leave him in here, let him clean up, and that way that'll be time served also, and he'll have less time he's got to do then. Why take him home now? Yeah. And Jerry said that made sense. Jerry says, quote, he told me this is the safest place for Brian to be because we will get him the help that he needs. He said the sheriff said, quote, I will personally look out for Brian. Brian will be safe in here. So Jerry feels good about that. He feels like that's better than him being out on the streets.
Sure.
And whatever. And it's going to get him, he'll definitely show up at his court appearance. He's not going to blow that now. It's just better. So he says that Jerry said he decided to leave Brian there. Said, fine, I'm going to leave him here. Jerry said, quote, I was hoping staying in jail would mean he'd finally get help. That's what the sheriff promised. They had a rehab program in the jail. But Brian never gets any drug or alcohol or mental health treatment at this jail at all. Nothing. Gets no treatment whatsoever for anything. Wow. Even the mental shit. He was only given aspirin. Yep. And his medication for depression, but he was forced off the anxiety pills and the pain pills and the inflammation pills cold turkey. Yeah. So 3 different prescriptions they take him off cold turkey.
Right now.
Can't do that.
No.
That's not great. I don't know if jail-wise you can, but that's not good on a human body.
Yeah.
So July 28th, 2018, he's still in jail. Yeah. He's still in jail. Apparently he gets in a fight in jail. Mm-hmm. He's playing cards and he's being loud while he's playing cards, so he gets in an argument with another inmate who tells him to shut the fuck up, a guy named Tamarian Williams, and he yelled at Lawler to stop. I guess Lawler, something happened, his pants fell down, I guess his prison issue pants fell down, he went to pick him up, and this guy sucker punched him, basically, was what everybody said. Brian was like, all right, relax, dude, whatever, and then went to pull his pants up, and this guy socked him in the face, is how it went. So then Lawler he got him good too. He like cut his face open and shit. Brian said he demanded to be taken to a plastic surgeon in a hospital ER. Mm-hmm. He's like, not going to have the prison guys fucking, this is my face, and, I'm a performer and all that shit. But he was told that it was Saturday and he would have to wait until Monday to get seen by a nurse who's working at the jail. Yeah. So you can bleed for 2 days, basically, is what he's told. And he's also placed in solitary confinement.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, this isn't that the police will say this is not for a punishment for the fight, but for his own protection. Right. Saying is they place him in solitary.
Bleed alone
while withdrawing from 3 medications. Good luck, asshole. So they stick him in there. Not cool. They gave him a Band-Aid for his wounds that need a plastic surgeon. Moved him to a solitary cell. They did leave him with his shoelaces, though, which is weird. When you place in solitary, you're not supposed to have anything that can hurt you. Also, this cell featured bolts that protrude from the wall, which is a weird thing that normally these cells don't have that. So after a little while of him being in the cell, we'll talk about how all this happened, but 2 of the guards end up coming in and they find him hanging in a cell.
Oh, no.
They find him hanging from his shoelaces here. They end up cutting him down. There's no knife or scissors in the jail. They must use the children's safety scissors that they give to these prisoners.
Wow.
That's what they're trying to cut him down with.
Unbelievable.
Where I would say seconds count when you're, strangling to death, probably. Seconds count. So we'll find out why it's so bad anyway. But he ends up being, he's unconscious. They take him to the hospital. He has to go on life support. The whole family comes. Jerry comes in, and they end up having to take him off life support, and he dies in the hospital.
Damn it.
He dies in the hospital from, complications of a suicide attempt, basically here. Jerry says, quote, "There's nothing that's going to bring Brian back. That's not going to happen, but it was preventable."
Yeah.
Now, this is from ABC 24 in Memphis. They had a thing here where they say, basically, Jerry says this: "At 10:30 that morning, I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I received a phone call from Brian, a collect call that's monitored and recorded, and it's timed. 15 minutes is all the time you can talk. That morning, though, he talked perfectly rational, perfectly normal. He just went on a little bit. That we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the sheriff, and that Brian went on about how none of the stuff that the sheriff promised would take place had taken place, and that he just talked about the bad conditions there at the jail. We got cut off mid-sentence after 15 minutes, and we didn't hear anything until 2:30 that afternoon. My fiance Lauren got a call from someone. Actually, I spoke with the sheriff, and he said that Brian had been involved with an altercation with another inmate. There was a fight. The sheriff's actual words were, Brian was acting a fool and picking a fight with someone he shouldn't have picked a fight with."
Wow.
That's what the sheriff said.
What a shitty thing to say.
Yeah, so Jerry says Brian got a laceration over his eye and they stitched him up and he was fine, which wasn't actually true. They just gave him a Band-Aid. Of course, we heard later on from an eyewitness that the fight went nothing like the sheriff said. Then a few hours later, I got another call from in Raleigh from a deputy sheriff saying, "Mr. Lawler, I've got some bad news. Your son Brian hung himself in the jail." So it was just from talking to Brian earlier in the day and hearing about the incident in the afternoon, all the way to the fact that he was gone that evening, just doesn't add up. So many of the eyewitnesses who have spoken to us and gotten in touch with us, the stories just don't jive. So yeah, they start doing some investigations. We'll talk about it here. He's got the means to do this shit and a name too to fucking put out there, and a name that is still pretty good in Memphis.
Holds weight in Tennessee.
So Lawler here, Jerry, they get a hold of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's toxicology report for when he went into the jail, shows that no basic drugs had been detected in Brian's bloodstream.
Wow, he was sober as fuck.
There were traces of oxycodone and oxymorphone, but not an intoxicant amount. And they said those were that he had a prescription for chronic pain, knee injury, anxiety, depression. So that's what he had, traces of that. No, he wasn't fucked up.
No reason to be there.
He wasn't fucked up. He shouldn't have been there, probably. Blow triple zeros and you don't have a bunch of drugs in your system. You shouldn't be there. Right. That's all there is to it. After he dies, Jerry Lawler texts a photo of Brian's dead body to the sheriff, to John Doolin. That's rough. He says, quote, I told him I trusted you and believed you, and when you told me my son would be safe in your jail and now he's dead. Doolin texted back, quote, I'm sorry for your loss.
Wow.
It's cold-blooded.
Balls.
Cold fucking
the
blooded.
Fucking balls.
Cold blood. Why return that at all? Cold fucking blooded. Don't say that. So
that's a picture of a corpse, sir.
Yeah, they talk about the neck, and there's a lot more to this we're going to talk about very quickly here. A lot of people come out to mourn him. The Rock makes an Instagram post, says, we rode daily 1,500 miles a week, trained together at any gym we could find, ate together at any Waffle House off the highway, wrestled together in flea markets to state fairs, shared motel rooms together, and we would always dream about what life would be like in the big leagues. I never knew him to be suicidal, but I guess sometimes the pain just gets too much for one to take. Everybody, a lot of people around him just said that he was, you could see him kind of spinning out lately, and we saw this year he just kind of escalated here. His brother says that he was buried in a Pittsburgh Steelers themed casket because that's what he wanted, and that must have been that's funny too, because that's like the ultimate stick to Jerry. Now spend $8,000 on this Steelers casket. That's pretty funny
with like the immaculate
with Franco Harris picking an inch off the ground, a picture of it on there, or them just beating Cleveland.
Right on the top.
The picture of fucking Greg Lloyd maiming Bernie Kosar. So, I guess Jerry thinks this is obviously preventable. He says he told them they were suicidal. He was suicidal, and they didn't even bother entering it into the computer. They didn't care. They didn't take the proper course of action to prevent himself from. They left him with shoelaces and a fucking cell with bolts in it.
Right.
This isn't great, knowing that you just yanked him off a bunch of medication. Also, and we'll get into this deeper, one of the guards saw Brian standing with a towel over his head on a bench in his cell. Standing there, and they ignored him.
What?
They instead went and threw garbage out and then returned to the cell later, and he was in the same position, and then they went, oh, maybe there's a problem. That's literally what happened here.
Unbelievable.
His friend Terry Teague, the hotel skipper, he said, quote, I think they were strangling him. I think they had him down in his holding cell and they were strangling him and he was fighting for his life. He talked to me because he said he doesn't think Brian would kill himself. He said he talked me out of it. Again, he told me, listen, look at life from outside the box. He said he told me straight up, man, if I ever die, don't let him say it's a suicide, he said, because here's the thing. Even if nobody else in this world loves me, I love myself enough to not take my own life. And he said that's what he said, but we don't know people. Right. People say that when they're feeling good, especially if they're manic depressive.
But also, he had every reason in the world to live because he's going to beat this case. He was fucking
it's
sober.
Ridiculous. Right. And he even says here, it wasn't like Kerry Von Erich who knew he was going to prison, and he knew it because he knew what he did. It wasn't one of those things. This guy Teague even showed text messages between them in June and July, showing Lawler talking about trying to get Teague to take suicide prevention and take awareness seriously and shit like that.
Just recently.
So he was aware of it that month and previous to that. He also says this Teague says, he said that the Teague says the smiling mugshot has much more meaning. He said, when we got to jail for the hotel thing and I heard the jailers tell him, Lawler, law enforcement is going to kill you yet, Brian was just smiling. So I think it was kind of thought he was joking around. He says, this guy Teague says he believes the police were after him and everything like that. Okay. He says, I believe that them officers, and I pray to God, I hope that lawyer would make everyone who was working that day take a polygraph test, because then the truth would come out. So basically, here's what happened. The shit wasn't entered into the system. The cell where he was placed contained numerous large bolts protruding from the upper portion of the wall that were perfectly situated to serve as an anchor for a ligature. Yeah. This is directly from the lawsuit that's going to happen here. Brian had prior suicide attempts, major depressive mood disorder, withdrawal, a head injury, all this type of shit. Was allowed to keep his shoes with his shoelaces in a room with anchors for a ligature situated all around the cell, and they call it deliberate indifference to his well-being. They said they routinely put inmates into the cell with their shoelaces without reevaluating for suicide risk. That's what the police said. They always do that. The protruding bolts make absolutely no sense, and the failure to remove these protruding bolts shows reckless disregard for the well-being of the inmates of the jail. Given Brian's mental health history and his drug and alcohol history, they should have done more. At 6:30 p.m., July 28, 2018, one of the guards, Gonzalez, walked by the cell, and he said that he observed Brian standing on a bench in his cell with a towel over his face. Rather than immediately accessing his cell to make sure he was okay, Gonzalez walked by the cell despite this concerning sight in reckless disregard for Brian's health and welfare. Gonzalez knew or should have known that Brian was in need of immediate medical attention, but he failed to take any action to check on Brian. The conduct of Gonzalez constitutes deliberate indifference and highlights the woefully inadequate training policies that were in place in the jail. After taking out the garbage and returning, Gonzalez again observed what he claims he still thought Brian was standing on a bench in his cell with a towel over his head, and finally called for assistance. So this is, if he got him right away, this is minutes that have gone by.
So he wasn't standing. He was just hanging.
He was hanging.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it was. Gonzalez didn't immediately access the cell, though, and instead spoke for some period of time with another officer, Wiggins here. Come on, Wiggins, you can't go into policing if your name is Wiggins. You just can't. It's just ruined for you. About what he thought he was observing. Like, do you think we should go in there? I mean, he could be dying. We don't know. Jesus Christ. Upon information here, they say Gonzalez thought Brian was, quote, faking a suicide attempt, is what he told him. That's what he thinks. I think he's faking a suicide attempt. I'm not going to go in there. That's what he said. Finally, the other guard came to see for herself, and when she responded, she realized Brian was hanging from a bolt in his cell by his shoelaces. Wow. You know, when they looked a little further, just to make sure he wasn't dead. They said, based on Gonzalez's account of these events, he literally walked past Brian's cell and looked in the cell while Brian was hanging from one of the protruding bolts and did nothing to help. They're saying that the jail failed to have suicide scissors or an appropriate knife immediately available, and instead had to use children's scissors to cut Brian down, by which time he was not breathing and unresponsive. Unfucking real. Jerry says, quote, this has been a nightmare, as you can imagine, from the moment I got the call saying that Brian hung himself. He says, Brian being my son, I knew him, everyone around him who knew him, and they all have expressed doubts that this was a suicide. So that's what he's saying. Not only was it reckless, he's saying he doesn't even think it was a suicide. Right. He's saying he thinks they killed him. Yeah. Not only did that's what it is. He says that his lawyer says, we've received countless calls, text messages from people, actual eyewitnesses that were in the jail and saw things that happened on the actual day that Brian died, that has now opened up a whole new can of worms. It just doesn't seem like it was a suicide. This is fucking insane. He's taken in for nothing and then allowed to commit suicide, and they think that maybe it wasn't, because there's ligature marks that aren't consistent with shoelaces there that are interesting. And Jerry said his son was with other inmates at the jail. He and his family members kept in close contact with Brian. Everybody was in contact with him. So he says Brian. He said that Brian was perfectly rational. Jerry did, and then they got the call about the fight, and they said it was a sucker punch. And Jerry says it just doesn't pass the smell test. He said that Jerry said after the sheriff told his fiance that Brian used shoestrings to hang himself, the photos show marks on either side of Brian's neck, but not in the front of his neck. Jerry says, quote, just look at his neck and look at his hand. You can see the lines on his neck all the way around from here to here, what would be the length of your hand, as if he was trying to keep the pressure off. Yeah. So he's saying there's nothing here. Right. Just like if you put your hand up to block a choke from a behind strangle. Right. Yeah, so that's what he's saying here. He says, I think the pictures indicate something other than someone hanging himself with a shoelace. So, those are some strong shoelaces too. Brian's 230 pounds.
That's a big dude.
That's a big dude. Also, they said the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said the investigation isn't complete. So, Jerry doesn't have full access to the case file, and then it'll all be cleared up. Yeah. Jerry said that they told him all 20 of the cameras inside the jail were not working at the time. And that's strange.
So
whenever a guy hangs himself at the jail, the fucking cameras are never...
Somebody hit the switch.
Hey, they hit the switch. It's pointed this way. Right. What the fuck is that? It's almost like, why fucking have them? The whole point of having them is to catch people doing shit. Right. So make sure they're fully operational. Jesus Christ. Jerry said that, quote, Jerry and his family, this is what the lawyer said, just want to know the truth about what happened to Brian. Jerry says he won't quit until we find out exactly what happened. The sheriff said that he had no indication that Brian was suicidal. He wasn't on suicide watch. August 20th, 2018, a guy gets caught in jail with identity theft, using Brian's identity in jail. Yeah, a month after he's dead. Less than a month after he's dead. It was Dontarius Jones committed identity theft by using his social security number to make calls. So that was interesting there, and he made calls to his family and shit like that. So that's
too bad.
It's a fucking strange thing, man. Very, very strange. So they're saying that there was something about the PIN and the social security number, and Lawler's lawyer said at some point Brian clearly gave this guy his PIN number. Brian told him to call his family and let Jerry know what's going on. All that is consistent because Brian was in solitary. Yeah. So he said, hey, call my family, tell them I got in a fight. Here's my PIN number. Use my shit. Then you don't have to use yours. And then the guy just started using his own. Obviously, he's in fucking jail.
The guy's dead. He's not using it.
Exactly. Right. Fuck it. Let's see if, I can call my mom. Cool.
Still works.
It works. Yeah. Who wouldn't? I mean, that's probably very normal. So he said after Brian was transported to Med, this guy attempted to contact his own family to tell him what was going on, but that was that. Now, December of 2018, Jerry Lawler says, until this time, we haven't been able to get any answers from anybody. That's the thing that's so frustrating. You sit around hoping the phone is going to ring anytime, any day, you'll hear some kind of information, something positive. It's such a slow process. He said, in the words of my attorney, there's so much smoke here that it's come out of the Bolivar jail that there's got to be a fire somewhere. And if you're right, we can help unearth that, then maybe things will change and it'll get better for some people down the line. So January 2019, Lawler's lawyers filed 2 subpoenas in regards to the death. And then July 29, 2019, recently, 5 months ago, the lawsuit is filed. Yeah. And you can read it all online. I read the whole thing. And it's a lot of what we talked about.
Settled yet.
It is for $3 million. And they said that he seeks, this is the maximum permitted by law in this case.
Should be much more.
In addition to that, the plaintiff will be, if the plaintiff's awarded punitive damages, amount to be determined by the jury. If the jury believes, okay. Also, that the defendant, the Hardman County, be required to put in place proper policies and training to address the provision of timely and adequate protection and provision of medical and mental health care, particularly in situations such as those addressed in this complaint, someone in mental distress. Also, if Hardman County had an unconstitutional policy or practice with regard to the provision of mental and medical health care to inmates that are taken into its custody who have a history of suicide attempts. Basically, you have to fucking protect people. To put, they're suing also in the lawsuit, not just for money, that they actually would have to put protections in,
put in provisions,
to try to get people to not kill themselves a little bit, just a little bit. Don't make it easier. Brian here is buried at the Memphis Funeral Home and Memorial Gardens in Bartlett, Tennessee. There, and so that's where he is. Can't get enough of Brian Christopher Lawler. There is a change.org petition that you can sign. This petition is to help protect us all from police corruption. Our goal is 2,500 signatures. Those will get it. Those will get it before the appropriate court date. Blah blah blah. It's basically, this is a thing. It's to open up. It's to open this up to like they want to have like a committee here to look at the processes. It will set up a new procedure for how jails handle inmates who get into altercations. It will set up rules on how to handle situations that arise. It will also mean that each situation will be documented and investigated, even if it means forming a group just for these things. They will be called the Turn It Up Council. They will be a group made up of citizens and law enforcement officials who will investigate each case. True, it sounds like a lot of work and time, but nothing in life comes easy. They have 474 signatures right now out of the 2,500 of the goal. So that's that. Whatever. If you're into that, you're into that. But That is Brian Christopher Lawler, and that is quite the fucking tale.
That's too bad.
From start to finish. Yeah, that's
what a depressing one.
That's one of our more tragic ones.
Yeah.
It's fun, and then punch in the face with sad.
It is.
You really get hit in the face with a barbed wire baseball bat with sadness right there.
Pretty choked up.
The sadness blood is dripping from my forehead right now.
Yeah.
I can see that right now. But yeah, that's Brian Christopher Lawler. That's him. We're gonna have a bunch more wrestlers. Like I said, we got a ton coming up. We got Marty Jannetty. We got Kurt Angle's going to be in here. We got, not in here, but on the show. We got, we'll do, there's so many, dude. I have a list of wrestlers.
Great.
I have a list. Sam Houston, you get to hear another one of Jake the Snake's family members, his brother.
Fantastic.
I got a couple of kind of unknown-y guys too. Yeah, I got a murderer, a molester. I got all sorts of people cooking here. So if you like that, if you like the show, if everything sounds good to you, you can tell us about it so easily by going over to Apple Podcast, that purple icon. Give us 5 stars. It helps. We don't know why. It's not us. We're not saying, hey, make that count in our rankings, but it does. So if you could do that for us, that would be wonderful. Give us 5 stars. Doesn't matter what you're saying. Tell us you're following directions, instructions. These guys have me in a cell with my shoelaces and bolts from the side of the walls. I'm very scared. Whatever you want to say, it doesn't matter. Just do it because it helps out the show a lot. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com for everything small town murder and crime and sports related. All your merchandise, new stuff up all the time. Also, tickets to live shows. So many live shows. The 2020 schedule is out, and these shows are filling up real fast. First 2 are sold out February 7th and 8th. Then we got Indianapolis and Louisville coming up February 15th and 16th. And then San Francisco, March 13th and 14th. And then at the end of March, Detroit and Cincinnati, the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Get your tickets now. There's way more, but we're just going to give you the next couple of months there. Get your tickets now to all that stuff, everything you can. Follow us on social media for updates because we might have a couple more cities we're going to be adding here that we've been trying to work on. So I don't know how, some kind of delay there for some reason. But so if you want to be the first to find out about that or anything else that we do, you can do it by following us there. We're at Crime and Sports on Twitter and Facebook and at Small Town Murder on Instagram, and everything gets posted on there. You can see that. If you want to be, good God, an even bigger hero to us. Oh, by the way, crimeandsports@gmail.com is our email if you want to get a hold of us there. If you want to be a bigger hero, one of our producers, honestly, these people are everything to us. They keep the lights on. They've been so wonderful to us, and it's just, we can't thank you guys enough for how you've changed our lives. If you want to be one of these people, our producers, you can do that very easily by going over to patreon.com/crimeandsports or head over to PayPal and use our email address, crimeandsports@gmail.com, and you can do that and make a one-time donation, and damn it, is everything appreciated. Speaking of that, Jimmy, I need it. I need the list.
All right.
It's been a week.
I got it over here.
It's one of those things. It's the first list of the new year. I need it, Jimmy. Hit me with it like I was loud in a prison card game.
This week's executive producers are Megan Campbell, Jay McFarland, John Jackson, Ellie Kamek. She's from Dallas, and we didn't get to see her when we were down there, and it bummed me out.
Maybe next time.
Miss you, Ellie. Carrie Gines, or Gines. It's probably Gines, right? It's not Gines. Nobody's last name is Gines.
I hope not.
Tanya Volanek, Nancy Graham, Jordan Bennett.
Thank you, is what we were meaning to say.
Amanda Rutherford, Aaron Cox, and Brittany Helm. Thank you guys so much. You don't know what you do for us.
You guys are the best.
You got
honestly.
me to urgent care this week, and I fucking...
Jimmy's sick. He's sipping tea over here. He's a disaster.
Mess. Other producers this week are Laura Edwards, Alejandra Flores, Michael Kogut, Crystal Weiss Omrachik. Yep.
That one.
Kelsey Lynn Lewis, Glenn Ely, Jamie Martin Schnell. I don't know if she's related to Steve. Possibly.
Well, either way, we like Steve, so hopefully.
Boston Van Landingham Gore, Lucy Stacy, Jen Wallace, Waffletosis. That's not somebody's name. I'm sure that's not a disease.
It's like a joke rap name.
Yeah, or it's a joke about when like the things, you know what I mean.
Waffleitis?
Yeah, like bluewaffle.com is a gross thing that people I'm sure it has something to do with that. Whatever. Nicola Mastrantonio, Zach with no last name, Tabitha no last name, Kelsey Bradley, Jill Fry, Katie Garout, JaCrispy Smith, probably not, Maybe. Who knows?
JaCrispy? I like that.
Chelsea Lene Morgan, Rachel San Marco, Brendan Stratton, Colleen Christian, Chow Mein Jane. I hope that's a restaurant.
That's awesome.
Connor Stein, Sarah Gray, Christian Manguia, Shelby Atkins, Christine Cordoza, Ryan Wallum, Alan with no last name, Heather Wellnitz, Lindsay Newton, Josh Buchanan, Kim Layer, Jordan Martin, Laura Mitchich, Lisa Dawkins. I think that's Dawkins. Pretty sure. Mary Greats, James Hansen, Courtney Yearout, Candace French, Wallace Schneider, Rachel Dean, Connor Storley, Kyle Tehan, Amanda Rutherford. I think I said that up top. No, that was Megan. No, it was Amanda. Damn it. She donated both ways. I'm sorry.
We go.
Kelly Walsh, Kyle King, Sarah Anderson, Corinne Jones, Steph the Green, I think, Leslie Todd, Lindsay Kay, Sarah Chulski, yes, Joanna James, John Ellis, Sam Harvey, Brooke Reeves, Faith McBoyd, Ann Jones, Marty Zero, Michael Lapham, Tracy Jacobs, Brian, God damn it, I'm trying to keep this light on. Brian Johnson, not of AC/DC, Madeline Holloman, Brandon Ayers, Brenda Moreno, Keith Christie, Nikki Mayoni, Marion Moss, that's her name, Jeremy Ebert, Allison Morrison, Amy Schultz, Drip Dry, probably not, Rachel Trzynski, Cherie Velez, that's one of my favorite last names.
That's a good one.
Nancy Thompson, Laura Looney, Amy Schultz, did I say that? I did. Tanner Ireland, Mary Schneider, I think I already said that. God damn it, what am I doing? Seth Parker, Logan Francis, Michelle Fournier, Jason Lunsford. Oh, my throat. God damn it. This is brutal, man. I'm telling you. Caitlin.
We love you guys. We have to.
Caitlin Terwilliger. She lives in Herndon from the episode of Kaipon Visp. Jeff Rash, and he is everyone is an expert pod. Dale Asburn, Ethan Williams, Avriel Pitch, Alexandria Frazier, Tracy Henson, Sydney Barnhart, Steve Schnell, there he is, Ashley Vio, Janice Hill again, thank you, Daniel Kajesarud, I think, Kimberly with no last name, John Herndon, and Chrissy at Thunderbird in Indy, I think that's true, Jessica Christensen, and her daughter Joey, and then her husband, I forgot her husband's last name, but they came to the show in, I forget where, God damn it, and I have a letter from Joey for you. I forget where they're at, but they're wonderful people. Rosa Luan, Jackie Sukup, Jordan Bish White. I think that Bush White. God damn it. Patrick Keller, Caleb Laughlin, Jude Kendall, Kelsey Graves, Jennifer Flores, Talena Jensen, Adam Udaney, Brittany Dacey, Bo Bradley, Debbie Chapman, Krista Walker, James Aselta, Thomas Smith, Alice Daly, Stephen Rude, Angelina Heaver, Kendra Smith, Robin Anderson, Tara O'Neill, Joanna Ahern, Seppi Montero, I think, Montardo, I think that's right. Okay. Reagan Shockley, Susanna Platt, Rebecca Filaggi, it's an Italian one, Filaggi.
What's the spelling?
Filiaggi?
You're looking at me. I don't know how you would
You should know
this.
Just from my stupid pronunciation.
From your 8 different pronunciations, I should know how to spell it.
Liz Vasquez, Jesse Hartman, Jenny Mort, Claire Havey, Courtney Chenier, Jamie Houseman, Maggie O'Neill, Kelly Higby, Caleb Farley went to Chad Curtis Diddle High. He went to that high school. Todd
That's
Purley,
amazing.
Lauren Demarath, James Martyr, Peyton Meadows, and all of our Patreon supporters. You guys really changed our lives and make this all worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so much for all that you do for us. We're just... Honestly, we keep saying we're blown away, and we can't express it to you. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And also, if you got a few bucks, or I don't know even if that's what the best thing to do is, look up how to help Australia. Try to help these people in Australia, because just imagine everything is on fire, and that sounds horrible.
That's fucking insane.
It's especially if you're on an island where there's really nowhere to go except the fucking ocean.
The numbers that they're spitting out of wildlife that are dead
in the billions.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely absolutely
It's a number
nuts.
that just doesn't make any goddamn
Their
sense.
country will never be the same.
Are they counting ants too?
I don't think so.
These numbers are so frightening.
It will never be the same there again.
God,
Literally,
no.
this is going to change their whole ecosystem, and it's horrible. So please help them out. And what if people wanted to get a hold of you and help you out and say things to you? How could they do it?
You can find me at Whisman Sucks, WHISMAN Sucks on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Doesn't matter. Go find Bindi and give her money.
I'm at Jimmie P is funny, or just copy and paste my last name from the show description. But look that up first. Look up the Australia stuff
Find
first.
the Irwins.
And do that.
They'll fix it.
They'll fix it. Well, either that or they'll hold animals. And
that Bindi's
going to
fix the whole fucking thing, I'm sure
I hope
of
so.
it. God damn it,
Let's
Bindi.
try.
Get to work.
Do something, God damn it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But hopefully that'll happen, and that'll...
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, and we're hoping for rain for you guys, man. Without wind, just downpours.
Just a downpour.
No wind, just a steady downpour that looks like movie rain.
Right.
That would be great for you guys.
The Lion King.
Everybody, fingers crossed. Live from the Crime and Sports Studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer.
I can really show you how to make some money.
And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.